Diesel, of all the games I have been to in my life, and I've been to a lot of games, college baseball, college football, you name it, lacrosse, I don't know, snorkeling, if that's a sport, you name it.
There's no defense in snorkeling.
There's no defense in baseball. I'm just kidding. Not going there.
Not in that game last night.
Of all the games that I've been to, last night's game was absolutely the wildest, craziest game. And I said last night's game, it was actually yesterday's game, but it lasted like 5.5 hours. Clemson yesterday, as you know, as most people know, the Tigers got bounced. They were Gator bait, but what an incredible game, one that will be talked about, in my opinion, for a long, long time.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to watch it live. I was listening to the broadcast, to our friend Don Munson calling the game. He is phenomenal when it comes to his baseball coverage. I mean, I was listening in the top of the 13th, I believe, when Cam Cannarella hit that solo shot to go up 1 run. They had just said he's 0 for 6 on the day. Or maybe it wasn't Cannarella. Maybe it was somebody, whoever it was that hit that solo shot in the 13th. Yeah. They said he is 0 for 6 on the day. He's due. And then he comes up and ping, puts one over the fence. Phenomenal call.
I wonder if Don still thinks that Clemson's pitching's just fine. Sorry.
Yeah.
Too soon? Too soon? Is that too soon, Diesel, or no?
Well, for what it's worth, a lot of Clemson's pitching pitched fine yesterday. Kanak was pretty good in the game. He wasn't perfect, but he was pretty good through the first couple of innings. A lot of the middle relievers were good. It just, when it came down to Ethan Darden at the very tail end of that ball game, he just didn't have it.
So a ton to get into. And by the way, quick programming note, we're going to talk to Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. First time Will has been on Wire to Wire. Looking forward to having him on the show. So many different angles, so much conversation to get into, Diesel. But talking about the game itself before we get into the ejections and what happened in the 2nd and 13th inning, which felt like 2 different days, by the way. Clemson, it was something that you and I talked about. It was a question that we asked several guests. Their pitching, in my opinion, was not good enough. I said this morning to Rob Brown, I do not think Clemson had the guy that could come out of the bullpen, that could be the dominant guy, that could be the shutdown guy. Austin Gordon was really good yesterday. Don't get me wrong. Don't hear me wrong. Austin Gordon was phenomenal at times yesterday. However, Clemson's pitching to me was all season of vulnerability, and I do think that Rob Brown brought up a very good point that I actually agree with this morning. Florida Diesel played meaningful baseball down the stretch. Clemson did not. That's a big part of it.
Yeah, that's something I'm definitely going to ask Will Vandervort about when we have him on at 4:20, Will from the Clemson Insider. I'm going to ask the question, why don't we have Clemson playing more out-of-conference games against top end of the AAC, top end of the Big 12, the SEC? I mean, Clemson plays that 3-game series every year against South Carolina. And over the past 2 seasons, they played 1 game each year against Georgia. That is not enough. That is not enough. You need to be playing your midweek games against SEC opponents, not against the USC upstates of the world, not against the Charlottes of the world. No offense to those programs, but when you need to be playing meaningful baseball down the stretch, you need to be playing meaningful baseball down the stretch.
The difference for Florida was, and Kevin O'Sullivan talked about this last night in the post-game interview. The difference for them was they were a team, Diesel, that was, as we talked about, they were highly inconsistent during SEC play. Lost to South Carolina, never really had an identity. But one thing that I did take away from what Kevin O'Sullivan said last night was, look, when we started the season, we had a lot of holes. We had a lot of holes at the midpoint of the season. However, Florida Diesel continued to get better and better every single week of the season. And by the time the end of the season rolled around, they were one of the hotter teams. And a lot of people said, look, Florida doesn't deserve to get in. We talked about it on this show. You can argue that they didn't deserve to get in. However, being hot matters more than your entire resume in baseball. We've seen it with the Philadelphia Phillies in the MLB, with the Atlanta Braves, and now with the Florida Gators.
I mean, we argued for College of Charleston over Florida, and Charleston played a phenomenal baseball season. They won 40-something games this year. But do we think Charleston was capable of putting up as many runs, putting up 11 runs against Clemson in the second game of a super regional? No. So as much as I hate to say it, as much as I pull for the little guy, having a team from a power conference that may have been not the best from that league is still better than having a team that doesn't really stand a chance to advance to Omaha.
So here's my take on Clemson this season. Before we get into the details of what happened, Diesel, I do not think Clemson was the dominant team that was being chased. What I mean by that is, like, in the 2 games against Florida, Clemson was the one chasing, right? They were the ones having to play keep up. When Florida scored, it was Clemson that had to play keep up. When Florida scored again and later in the ball game, Clemson had to tie it. And then the 9th inning, what seemed like to be the ball game, down to their final 2 outs, Cam Canarella goes heroic and ties the game. Once again, Clemson had a chase. When you win a national championship, Diesel, I'm not saying teams can't go on Cinderella runs, but you have to be dominant. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there was an area of baseball this year that Clemson was just pure dominant in. Well, and that's not a shot.
Yeah, no, they had all the elements there, but they weren't putting it together game in and game out. I mean, you just look at the game yesterday. Clemson was scoring runs throughout the game, 3 in the 3rd, 1 in the 6th, 2 in the 8th, 3 in the 9th. So they were scoring throughout the game. 10 runs. 10 runs is going to win you most games in college baseball.
Yes.
Offensively. But the problem is you had Florida on the other side, and Florida hits a lot of home runs. Florida was putting the ball in the gap, and Florida just played cleaner baseball yesterday.
They did. So as the game went on, listen, the fans yesterday, they were very edgy. It was one of the best, if not the best, college environments I've ever been in my entire life. And I really do mean that.
We really, really need environments like that in this area more often.
Yes, every year.
I'm going to advocate until I'm done doing sports talk radio that Clemson and South Carolina need to be playing more big-time out-of-conference matchups in baseball throughout the season. Again, stop playing the Presbyterians and the Belmonts in your midweek slate late in the season. Give me these environments. That's how you're going to grow college baseball. That's how if you can showcase these types of environments, and it sucks that Clemson lost this series if you're a Tiger fan. But where you won is that you showed off just an insane environment. You showed off, for lack of a better word, an SEC environment over this weekend. You showed off that you belong in that league. And hey, I don't know if baseball has anything to do with it, if it's a kicker down the road, kind of that last minute, that last little consideration. But if you can show that you're packing out 35,000 night in and night out, given this kind of environment for baseball, then it may help your case getting into that league.
So much to take away from what happened. I will say this. I said this on Twitter yesterday. Diesel, I tried to be very, very fair to the officials. I really do. I have a lot of friends who are officials at high school and small colleges, and I really do try to be fair. However, as I said on Twitter yesterday ain't that day. Today ain't that day either, by the way. I'm not going to be fair because what I saw yesterday from the umpires at that Clemson game was just absolutely embarrassing. It was pitiful. It was a lot of me show. And I think that, am I saying the umpires cost Clemson the game? Absolutely not. However, it is absolutely atrocious to have to watch an umpire crew, Diesel, make an entire game about them the way that those umpires did yesterday. And the very last inning was not the beginning because, in the second inning, we had a Clemson player ejected. A collision on the base path, what is really what caused Clemson to be as edgy as they were. And I said on Twitter yesterday, that might have been the best thing that could have happened to Clemson in the second inning. The 13th inning, though, Diesel, was something I've never seen with coaches getting ejected.
Yeah.
Alden Mathis, he hit the home run to go ahead. If you've seen the video, you saw it very clear. He slammed the bat down. He got a warning. At first, we thought he was ejected. Nobody.
Something, by the way, Jack Caglione did earlier in the game as well with no repercussion.
Every game. He does
no
every
repercussion
game.
Whatsoever.
Jack does it every game.
He's like, I think he's one of those guys that has sort of that LeBron, MJ kind of thing to him where it's okay if they do it because people love to see it. You know, he's the star. You're not going to eject the star for doing it, but you'll eject the guy who's not the star.
So he does have a little bit of that, like, star power because there were a lot of Clemson fans who booed him the entire time. Rightfully so, right? He's the enemy. He's the evil guy. But what I saw in the 13th inning with Bakich and Leggett getting tossed, Diesel, I don't have an explanation for. The NCAA did put up an explanation last night late. I do have an article on our website at thefanupstate.com if you want to check that explanation out. It's rather lengthy, but you can check it out on our website. I understand the frustration why Jack Leggett was frustrated. Mathis threw his bat down. Clemson was leading, top of the 13th. Jack gets tossed. Bakich comes out. The video you've seen, I tweeted it out. It's all over the place. Diesel, this is where I want to park. This is where I want to – I'm not trying to stir up anything here, but here's where I want to ask a question because my Twitter the last 20 hours has been an absolute bleep show, right? It's been a bleep show from Clemson fans and South Carolina fans. The video that surfaced about Eric Bakich after he got tossed, he got his money's worth. You saw it. He got the fans fired up. There's a lot of people who have caught my attention by saying things like Eric Bakich knew they were going to lose or else he wouldn't have done that. You ask yourself, if you have a chance to win that game, you're up 1 after that, right? You're up after the Mathis home run, you're up 1 run. Top of the 13th. If you know you have a chance to win the game, why do you risk getting ejected, which would put you out for tonight's game as well as game 1 in the World Series?
Well, first of all, anybody saying he knew they were going to lose, that's analysis in the rear view, okay? I mean, that's a stupid, asinine thing to say. Like nobody knows they're going to lose, so they just go for broke. No, I mean, he let his emotions get the better of him. The crowd absolutely loved it. He secured legendary status with that fan base. First of all, it was the jumping into the stands a few nights ago. Then it was this display that we saw yesterday. He knew full well he needed to rile up his fan base. He knew full well he needed to pump up his team. But I'm going to say it right now. That was a dumbass thing to do, especially after one of your coaches had been thrown out, because you do that, you're gone for the rest of the game. You're gone for the next game and the game after that. So now you've got your third or fourth coach running things inside the dugout. You don't have your analytical mind. I mean, I understand you can do all the other things off the field that you want to, and that's fine. But you don't have your leader in the dugout when you do something like that. So I think it was a stupid move from Eric Bakich. I'm sure he would do it 100 times again. He would probably tell you right now, yeah, that was a stupid thing to do, because had we won that game, I'd have been out and I wouldn't have been there for my team. But the fans loved it. He just probably secured himself another contract down the road. I don't know how long his initial deal was, probably 4 years, 5 years. He probably secured himself another deal with that. The fans love him.
I do not disagree. I will not push back on the move from Bakich being an emotional move. Listen, the reality of it is yesterday, if you were in that ballpark, if you were at Doug Kingsmore yesterday, when you got to the 13th inning, Diesel, everyone in there, from the media to the fans to the coaches to the umpires to the water boys, trainers, you name it, there was just like everybody was on edge. You didn't know what was going to happen. You've been there for 5.5 hours. This is already the most insane college baseball game a lot of people have ever seen. And Bakich allowed his motions to get the best of him. Can you say that maybe he would go back and do it differently? Maybe he does. However, I do think that Eric Bakich allowed his emotions to dictate what he did on the field after Leggett got tossed. I'm not saying the emotions of that 13th inning cost Clemson the game in any way, I still think they would have lost because Florida's bats were just really, really good. However, I'll say this. I've never seen anything like it, first of all. Secondly, there's a lot of talent on that team, but you can't always play from emotion. Like, you can't always allow emotion to be your fuel. Like, you have to be better. You have to be more talented. And I'm not saying Clemson relied on their emotion instead of their talent. I'm just saying, like, Florida, to me, was clearly the better team, Diesel. They were clearly the better team last night.
Yeah, one thing I can take away from this, Cole, is I think Clemson is I think we both probably knew Clemson was a year away from really being an elite baseball team this year. I think next year they have a real chance to be a very, very, very good baseball team. I mean, 2 years at Clemson, he made the regional last year, Eric Bakich did. He made the super regional hosted this year, ran into a team that, well, just got off to a really, really rough start, but had a ton of talent on it. Now he knows exactly what he needs to do.
Yeah.
Exactly what he needs to go get to make himself and to make his team dominant.
They're very good.
So I think going into next season, Cole, this is a really, really enviable position that Eric Bakich finds himself in.
Listen, I agree. They're headed in the right direction, just like the players said last night in the post-game press conference. This program is 110% headed in the right direction. However, in my opinion, I think they need to shore up a few holes in the bullpen. They're going to lose some studs. They're going to lose 3 or 4 studs this offseason. But their pitching, to me, has to be better. I just said it. I think we were at Carolina Country Club when I said it on Thursday. You can't always just assume you can come back and win every game. Like, at some point, you have to be the more dominant team. You have to be the dominant team out there that's actually being chased instead of the one that's chasing somebody else.
Yeah, they are going to lose at least Henderleiter, Obertop, and Mathis. Probably a few others are going to move on for the draft and or graduation. They're going to lose some big bats going into this season. So there's a couple of them are super seniors. There's a couple of other seniors on the team. Not sure. I mean, I'm completely confused when it comes to how many years of eligibility these guys have. It's like they just keep finding more COVID eligibility. I don't know where this keeps coming from. Yeah. It's going to be 2030, and some of these guys are still going to have COVID eligibility. But you replace, I mean, they're only going to lose, I think, probably 3 really key pieces off of a team off of a roster that's pretty stacked.
Dewey wants to chime in. Let's go to Dewey. What's up, Dewey?
Yeah, I had a couple of things to say. First of all, go off topic, but the Atlanta Braves are toast. Fire Brian Snicker, put Chipper Jones in. Secondly, Clemson, they should be disbanded from baseball. That was embarrassing. All of them get kicked out of the game like that. All of the coaches should be fired because they lost. Oh.
Thanks, Dewey.
Thanks, Dewey.
Texter says, I guess we proved it. Middle of the pack SEC team is better than a top ACC team. Another texter from the 907 says, stop crying. It's always the officials whenever Clemson loses a men's sport. Texter from the 554, Clemson fans are always going to find something to cry about. The umps just made it easier for them. Am I a better Carolina fan that misses the Natty days? Yes, but my point remains the same. Bunch of crybabies, says Jacob in Spartanburg.
Hey, Jacob, we appreciate you at least calling yourself out for that as a bitter Gamecock fan.
I like the honesty, Jacob.
Yeah.
To put a bow on it, and we'll get back to it a ton during this show,
Sure.
And with Will Vandervort, to put a bow on it, Clemson, an incredible season. I thought Florida was the better team. Florida's lineup, they're just dangerous, man. And they have the best player, arguably, in the country. And you saw what happened yesterday early when you pitched to them. Clemson's heading in the right direction, but they have to be better at the mound, in my opinion.
When we come back, Cole, it is time for people to shut up and stop gassing up Caitlin Clark. I'm done with this bitching and moaning and crying because she didn't get her way. That's coming up next here on Wire to Wire. Caitlin Clark has been snubbed from the U.S. Olympic team. Big deal, little deal, or no deal? That's what I ask of you. UTOLO 71307. Start your text with keyword fan or call us on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663, especially if you have more to say than Dewey does when he calls in. But Cole, Caitlin Clark left off the team. Everybody's losing their minds. Oh, my God, you can't leave Caitlin Clark off the team. Yeah, you can. It's real easy to leave Caitlin Clark off of the Olympic team because she hasn't been that good this year. I mean, everybody's trying to make all this Caitlin Clark stuff about themselves, right? About how they feel. They're trying to live vicariously through her playing on the Olympic team. But flat out, Cole, she hadn't been good enough this year. She's the 6th best rookie in the league based on YahooSports.com's ratings of rookies. She was informed via a phone call while on the team bus that she would not be on the Olympic team. And she said, okay, it is what it is. She texted her coach, Christy Sides, and said, they woke a monster. See, that's what I like about Caitlin Clark, is she's not making this about her legacy or her image or her ego. She just says, okay, let's go. Let's go. I'm gonna rip some heads off throughout the remainder of this season.
I hear you. However, I think it's the absolute dumbest thing in the world.
Why?
You do not have a superstar in the WNBA currently or historically the past who has brought more eyeballs to the sport.
Yeah, but this isn't about eyeballs. She is I'm going to coin a term right now, Cole. She's a sino. She's a superstar in name only. She got no stats, man.
How many games has she played? What, 10?
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Doesn't matter, Cole. I mean, she's playing good right now. She played really good on Friday. 30 points in 39 minutes against the Washington Mystics. Included a rookie record-tying 7 3-pointers in that game, Cole. But outside of that phenomenal performance, and I'm not saying it's anything but a phenomenal performance, she hasn't been that good. She is rated as the 6th best rookie in the game. And I don't know about you, Cole. I was under the impression that in the Olympics, it's about winning golds. Now, it's not about drawing eyeballs. It's not about selling merchandise. It's about winning them medals. And she hasn't played good enough as a rookie to warrant being on that team.
So what does she need to do next time in a 10-game span? Score 70 a game?
Why do you think everybody who's a rookie who's just barely in this league deserves a spot on this team? See, that's my point.
Clark.
That's my point here, Cole. There's a lot of people who feel entitled for Caitlin Clark. Yeah, Caitlin's not entitled at all. She doesn't feel entitled at all. As a matter of fact, here's the audio of Caitlin Clark talking about being left off the team.
Yeah, I think I'm excited for the girls that are on the team. I know it's the most competitive team in the world, and I know it could have gone either way of me being on the team, me not being on the team. So, I'm excited for them. I'm going to be rooting them on to win gold. I was a kid that grew up watching the Olympics, so it'll be fun to watch them.
Humble, a lot of humility in that answer. Excuse me, let me pause that. A lot of humility in that answer, and I appreciate that.
So you're saying that because someone thinks she should be on the Olympic team, they're making it about themselves?
When there's people who are better than her, as deemed by the coaches who are making these decisions. Look, I mean, it's not going to stop anybody. It's in one of our promos, Cole. It's one of our promos that say, hey, you make $12.50 an hour.
Yeah.
But you think you know better than people making 10 times your salary. That's who we are, right? That's the people who listen to this show. And I'm here to tell you that you're all wrong. I'm here to tell you that you're wrong because Caitlin Clark hasn't done enough to be on the team that represents this country.
I just don't think
in the worldwide Olympics.
I don't think it's fair though to judge her based on such a small sample.
So you want to put somebody in there who by the numbers doesn't deserve to be there, and also say, well, her numbers don't really matter because she's got a small sample size.
How many games?
Like, aren't you supposed to prove it? Like, what happened to this country, Cole? This used to be a country of prove it. And sorry, timing is what timing is. If the Olympics were next year,
Yeah.
and she had a full year and change on the team, and she still wasn't good enough, well, we'd have a clear sample size. But we don't. We don't have a super strong sample size. But what we do have is a girl with an awful lot of star power. And I'm not taking that away from her. She has a ton of star power. And she has the drive. And she says all the right things. And I appreciate that about Caitlin Clark.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people who say, well, even though she doesn't have the stats, even though she doesn't have the time under her belt, even though this, even though that, I still think she should be put on the team above somebody who has actually earned it with time on the court.
So,
and that's what this country is all about, is earning it by proving it, not earning it by projections.
Caitlin Clark right now, Diesel, leads all WNBA rookies with 16.8 points per game.
Mm-hmm. That's one stat.
No.
It's one stat.
The goal is to score, right?
Right. That's one stat.
But I'm saying the goal of basketball is to score. We give Kareem, we give LeBron prestigious titles for setting these kind of records. But she is leading the WNBA with 16.8 points per game.
You're missing my point. That's one stat, Cole.
What stat should she be leading with?
According to Yahoo Sports, this is their total rookie rankings that ranks all stats combined. Comprehensive look. She's behind Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, Kate Martin, Rakia Jackson, and Julie Van Loo.
So the stat that I give you about points per game, what stat should she have that would, in your opinion, get her on the team?
Well, I don't know what stats she sucks in that have her sixth on the list, but I would assume their efficiency. I would assume it's number of turnovers, defensive efficiency, all the other stats that go into it. You look at one stat and say, well, that's enough for me, good enough for me. Golly willikers, let's put her in over somebody who can actually play defense.
Here's what I'll push back. Nobody's saying because she is averaging 16.8, that's the only reason. There is nobody in the WNBA who has been as impactful this quick as Caitlin Clark. There is nobody that has brought eyeballs to the sport. There's nobody as talented. If she wasn't talented, I'd be with you. I'd side with you. However, she is arguably one of the most talented players in the WNBA, one of the best shooters, maybe the best shooter in the WNBA, and is on a terrible team. So while her team's not any good, why should we punish her?
Well, it's not because her team is 3-9. It's not like a WNBA All-Star game where they have to take somebody off of every team, right? This is the Olympics, okay? This is international competition. This is just not some exhibition where they're going to go out there and they're going to score 200 points because nobody's playing any defense like they do in the men's NBA All-Star game, okay? This is Team USA. Team USA. Not team, who do we think can bring more people to watch women's basketball in the Olympics? This is friggin' Team USA, man.
But why? But let me ask you a question. Why has she brought more eyeballs? Because she's the best player on the planet, right? Who's better than her?
Well, I mean, just in rookies. Cameron Brink, Angel Reese, Kate Martin, Rakia Jackson, and Julie Van Loo.
So would you take those 6 over Caitlin Clark to build your roster?
If what's the roster size of the Olympic national team?
No, I'm just saying in general.
I'm asking you, what's the roster size of the Olympic national team? I'm guessing 20, 25 tops, right?
Yeah.
If she is one of the 20 best, if any one of those players, Brink, Reese, Martin, Jackson, or Van Loo, if any one of those 5 were among the 20 best players in America at basketball, I would say put them on the team. But this is about being among the 20 best players in women's basketball in America, going to play internationally for your country. This isn't about selling the game, right? This is not about promoting the game. And that's what everybody wants to make this about, promoting the game. I don't give a rip about promoting the game. This is international sports, okay? So stop it with that.
I'm not saying that.
Stop giving her everything and make her earn it.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that she's, in my opinion, the best player, the best shooter in the WNBA. If I had to pick any player right now, I'm taking her. And
Z Fink on the stream says she's nowhere near the best player in the WNBA. Come on, Cole.
So Z Fink, who are you taking over her right now? Tell me. Give me a name. Who are you taking? Because I'm going to take Caitlin Clark.
What I love about the fact that she was left off the team, Cole, is that she has been given a lot of things based on her star power. She's earned a lot of things based on her ability, yes. But she's also been given a lot of things, especially media attention, based off of her star power, some of which isn't good, right? We've seen the star power, we've seen the extra attention and the highlights on SportsCenter and all that in her first 12 games as a pro that otherwise wouldn't have made it on SportsCenter because she didn't look good, right? We're all watching her because she's so good and because she's struggling on a bad team.
So
I appreciate the fact that she texted her coach immediately after that and said they woke up a monster and then went out and dropped 30 in 39 minutes against the Mystics.
So I want anyone who thinks that Caitlin Clark should not be on the Olympic team, who sides with you, Diesel, I want to know from that audience, from that group, what does she need to do better? What do rookies need to do better? Like their first, 12 games in the WNBA as a rookie.
I don't think there should be any NBA rookies on the All-Star team.
Really?
Are you telling me
LeBron James?
Let me finish. Let me finish. Are you telling me outside of the very, very, very few that any rookie should be playing with the best in the world? That's why we're getting our asses kicked in international play lately, because we're putting on star power teams. We're putting on fan-voted all-star teams. Have you not watched the last couple of Olympics, Cole? Our disappointing performances in men's basketball in the Olympics over the past couple of Olympic games? We're not dominating the way that we used to. So that's why I'm saying stop putting the rookie out there who's only got 12 games under her belt just because you think she's got some sort of star power and because you think she's better than what her record and what her stats says she is, and make them go out and earn it.
I've never said one time that she's got in because of her star power. I said she's the best player on the planet. I'm telling you, if you had a pick,
what? Based on
you watched her?
Based on projection, based on your opinion of what she could be,
No.
Because that's where most of our conversations go these days, Cole. It's not about what have they actually done. It's about potential. What could they do? I don't give a rip about somebody's potential. Give me actual results.
So Asia Wilson, let's say that the guy on the stream who said Asia Wilson's better. Has Asia Wilson been in the NBA the same time length that Caitlin Clark has? Waiting for an answer from anybody. No, she's had time. Do you think Asia Wilson in her first 12 games led the WNBA in all these categories?
So you're making my argument for me is Asia Wilson has had time and she has proven it over her time in the league.
That Asia Wilson has proven her time because she's had more time. You can't say Caitlin Clark didn't deserve it because, she's star power and we just hand her everything. I'm saying that she absolutely has earned it. Based on what she's done to this point, she was the greatest college player that I've ever seen. She broke every stat imaginable. I just think that when you talk about Olympics, best players on the planet, you think about women's basketball. Best players on the planet, and Caitlin Clark isn't on the list? Are you kidding me?
If this was the way Olympic teams used to be constructed, when it was amateurs, when professionals weren't allowed to play in the Olympics, absolutely. Before she started playing in the WNBA, if this had taken place between her leaving Iowa and her joining a WNBA team, I'd say absolutely, because she is one of the best amateurs in the world. But she hasn't yet proven, since now we can put professionals in the Olympics, she hasn't proven to me that she's one of the 20 best pros in the league. Part of it may just be a victim of circumstance, right? The fact that she's only had 12 games, the fact that she's on one of the worst teams in the league. Sorry, that's the way the WNBA draft is set up.
Yeah.
The best players go to the worst teams. But I would rather have somebody on my team playing in international play who has had more of a sample size to prove it.
I would rather have a winner. I'd rather have somebody that can shoot the lights out. But what if you can have a winner
and someone who's proven it? You can have both. Caitlin Clark is one of those things. She's a winner in college, but she hasn't yet proven it in the pros. I'm saying give me the 20 best pros who have also proven it.
I just don't think
I hear you. It's hard for me to say, well, you haven't proven it, Caitlin. Caitlin look at me and say, well, I've only been in the league for 12 games. I know, but you hadn't proven it. You got to do more.
Again, I appreciate the fact that Caitlin Clark is so humble about this. She's not out there saying, this is BS. I should be on this team. Blah, blah, blah. That's not who she is.
No, she's not.
And I appreciate that about her.
She should be, though. Texter says, Cole, your opinion is based on her page and star power. I just said, Texter from the 813. By the way, appreciate you listening. That she was arguably the best college basketball player I've ever seen at the women's level. Not arguably, she was.
She set almost every record she could.
And she's been in the NBA, Texter, for what, 9-3? Is that right? Are they 3-9?
Yeah.
So she's been 12 games in the WNBA. Texter, I'm not going to say that my opinion is based on her star power. My opinion is based on that she is freaking talented. She is, in my opinion, one of the best shooters on the planet. You find me other WNBA players who can go toe-to-toe with her as a shooter, right? Steph Curry, rookie season, if he would have had the college career she had, I can promise you Steph Curry would have been on the Olympic team. Texter says, I'm a female, not male, and I have watched the WNBA for years. I'm not a bandwagon fan who jumped on the bus because of Caitlin Clark. Well, Texter, we appreciate you listening, but you're an outlier.
So let me ask you this question, Cole.
Mm-hmm.
One of the worst teams in the NBA this year, the Charlotte Hornets.
Yes.
They had rookie Brandon Miller on the team. He was statistically the second best rookie in the NBA this year behind Victor Wembanyama. Victor's French, so we can't talk about Victor, right? We're talking about Brandon, the best rookie in the league who's American playing on one of the worst teams. Would you put Brandon Miller on the men's Olympic team?
No, because he's not one of the best I've ever seen. No, that's a terrible argument. Brendan Miller was Caitlin Clark Diesel was one of the best to ever do it. Name a college basketball
at a different level of basketball.
Right, but she's had 12 games. That is so unfair in my opinion.
It is what it is, man. You were born.
You should have done better.
You should have been born a year prior, you know? She was born in, I don't know what year Caitlin Clark was born, 2020, 2001, 2002. She should have been born in the year 2000, and then she would have had a year under her belt. I mean, look, it's not fair. It's not fair that the Olympics are every 4 years and you'll have somebody tear an ACL 8 months before the Olympics and miss out on their best opportunity to go in the Olympics because, well, they got hurt 8 months prior. It's not always fair, but it is what it is. We operate based on what we can see, based on what is, based on what they have earned, not based on what they could be and what they were at a different level of the game.
Kind of like we pay NFL quarterbacks. Oh, I mean, we pay NFL quarterbacks millions for what they what?
Well, we pay NFL rookie quarterbacks based on what the NFL rookie salary structure says they get paid. They get paid 4 years later because of what they've actually achieved at that level.
But Kyler Murray's earned it, right?
Well, hey, a fool and his money are soon parted. You know, that's not. You can't argue with me about how stupid the Arizona Cardinals are for keep throwing money at Kyler Murray. He hadn't done a damn thing to earn it, yet they keep giving it to him anyway.
Texter says, just like Christian Laettner should not have been on the dream team, Isaiah Thomas should have. We are getting the break, I promise. Texter says from the 504, Clark is good, but I'm taking Asia Wilson over her. Well, Texter, I disagree. If I'm having to pick a player to start a franchise with, I'm taking Caitlin.
So if there's 20 players on the women's international team,
yeah,
and Asia Wilson is number 20 and Caitlin Clark is number 21, are you telling me that you're putting Caitlin Clark on that team because of her potential and because of her star power over Asia Wilson?
She's not 20, though.
That's not my point. I'm asking you the question. Whether it's Asia Wilson or
Asia's like top five. Easy.
Okay. Well, I'm just making up a name here. That's not really the point of the argument. The point is not to argue Asia Wilson. My point is, if Asia Wilson was the 20th best player on that team, ranked by USA Women's Basketball as the 20th best player, would you sit her, leave her at home, and take Caitlin Clark on the trip?
If I thought that as a voter or whoever picks the Olympic teams, if I thought that Caitlin Clark was a better basketball player, absolutely.
Well, you just missed what I just said. They've already deemed that Asia Wilson is the 20th best player. Caitlin Clark is 21. So she's one better than Caitlin Clark. Would you leave her at home to put Caitlin Clark on that team just because you want Caitlin Clark on the team so badly?
Who deemed her to
USA women's basketball?
but
They're
US
the ones who
no.
build the roster.
But I'm saying that's a dumb question. That's like saying if I rank this restaurant second, am I ever going to choose this restaurant over my first restaurant? No, because I ranked it second. They're the ones that choose the roster, so they're not going to change their opinion.
If the people who make up the Michelin 5-star restaurant ratings list, right? It's not one person. It's a group of people who come together and put together this list.
Yeah.
Are you saying that those people should take number 20 off the list because they think number 21 could be better one day?
No, that's not the reason I said Caitlin Clark should be on the roster, though, is it? Did I say that? No. I didn't. Texter says Asia Wilson is the best player in the WNBA, hands down. Texter, I disagree. I think Caitlin Clark is. Texter says, I am with you, Cole. Texter says, Brittany Griner has played one game in the last 3 years. That's a good point. We didn't talk about her. All right, we'll continue this conversation, Diesel, since it's getting so much traction on the text line. I'd hate to go away from it. Text line's lighting up. We'll get back to it. Your thoughts, 71307. Start your text with the word fan.
Scott chimes in on the text line 71307. Scott says Asia Wilson is leading the MVP race and Clark is not physically on the same level as these grown women. However, I think it would be hard to say she isn't one of the top WNBA players, top 20. I agree with you both, says
Just
Scott.
for clarification, I didn't know this. Weren't looking it up while we were live. It's only a 12-player roster. So are you saying that Caitlin Clark is among one of the 12 best American basketball players?
Absolutely. I think she's top 5.
12.
Yeah. I think she's top 5.
They are
top 5.
Wow.
Easily. What player in the WNBA can shoot like Caitlin Clark? Come on. Texter says from the 345, Clark deserves to be there. Bottom line. Texter says leave Taurasi off or Griner. Yes, Clark deserves to be on the team. Michelin highest. What's it? Texter about Michelin? Did we say something about Michelin earlier?
Yeah, I was talking about Michelin 5-star restaurants. I was using the best restaurants in America to make the point.
Diana T says, fan upstate, if you actually watch the WNBA, every guard that made the Olympic team is better than Caitlin Clark, other than Diana. Oh, I'm sorry. That was not Diana. She was, I thought like, Diana.
Diana Taurasi's listening to the station?
I'm sorry.
What?
Texter, I don't know. I'm not classifying you as Diana. Listen, I do watch the WNBA very limited because I think it's boring outside of Caitlin Clark. I don't know why all of a sudden we're acting like the WNBA is even relevant without Caitlin Clark. But throw her off the team. Throw her in jail. She doesn't deserve to be on. You know what? I think I've changed my mind. She doesn't even deserve to be in the WNBA. She's terrible. 12 games not good enough, Diesel. Kick her off.
When we come back, I know that you partake in this particular thing. Gambling.
Oh.
But I've got a wild story for you from Bob Nightingale of USA Today. He wrote about some of the very ugly sides of what's happening in sports to the athletes since gambling has become so universal. That's next here on Wire to Wire on the Fan Upstate. There's a lot of people, Cole, making a lot of money on gambling on major sports in America. By that, I mean the people who run the sports books. There's a lot of people who are losing a lot of money by gambling on sports, namely us, people like us. And the players are caught in the middle. Bob Nightingale of USA Today wrote a fascinating article about the negative effects of gambling in Major League Baseball, specifically about how players are receiving death threats. They're being harassed by angry gambling losers. This is going to become a bigger and bigger deal, Cole, until one day at some point, this thing boils over and a player who strikes out in a big game, drops a catch, something like that, is physically harmed by a gambler who's too upset and can't control their emotions. So this is a fascinating article. I'm going to read some of the things that some of the players said when interviewed in this article. And then I want to get your opinion on, well, how do we curb this? How do we stop this? Or does it even matter? Can anything be done about it at all? Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson right here on the Fan Upstate, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. Do you gamble? Do you wager a little bit on sports? 71307. Start your text with keyword fan. Weigh in on this. This quote comes from Arizona Diamondbacks closer Paul Sewald. He said, "You hear it all, man. You blow a save, you don't come through, you get it all. Bleep you. You suck. You cost me all this money. Bleep you. Bleep your family. I'm going to kill you, then kill your family." Continues and says, "It gets ugly really quickly. It's scary. And it's sad. It used to be fans who were upset because you blew the game for the team, but now it's gambling. These players don't really care about the Diamondbacks. They just care about their bets. And we're talking about money they don't have that they're losing. So it's a very scary spot." One Major League Baseball manager told USA Today Sports that he had received death threats delivered directly to his home, requiring police protection. This is an issue, Cole, that the MLB Players Association publicly voiced concerns about when they started bringing gambling into Major League Baseball. They negotiated what might be one of the most feckless things I've ever heard, Amendment 61 to the CBA, which requires teams to be proactive in curbing fans' aggressive behavior towards players. Here's what Amendment 61 says, quote, "Clubs shall include in their fan policies a prohibition against betting-related abusive fan speech and behavior that is directed at players, players' family members, club personnel, and umpires. Players, coaches, and umps now even have, Cole, a safety hotline to report any threats that they're getting." This is ugly. This is the ugly side of betting. People who lose money on real-life individuals playing a game and then feel like they have the right to take it out on those players because they lost money that they couldn't afford to lose.
No, it's a sad reality. There are so many fans that call themselves fans that aren't really fans of the team. The reality of it is the way that gambling has engulfed so many people, it has not become just something you do for fun with a little bit of money. It has now become something that people are using to try to increase their income with. And gambling was not designed.
They look at it as a side hustle.
Gambling was not designed to do that. And the worst part of it is, as soon as you do, if you're a gambling addict, as soon as you do lose, you get into a hole, you start doing something called chasing. And it's a very bad problem. And the reality of it is, no, it's not healthy in any way. There are a lot of people who chase and chase and chase till they can't chase anymore. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Diesel, they're losing their car, they're losing their house, they're losing it's insane how much money's being put on it.
Isn't it funny when you hear a 60-second gambling commercial and almost half of it are the super sped up disclaimers of, do you have a gambling addiction? Here's how you get out of it. If you're in this state, call this number. If you're in this state, call that number. I mean, look at anything, Cole. Anything where over half of the advertisement for it is, you really shouldn't do this. And if you do this and it's negatively affecting you, here's how you get out of it. should automatically throw up a red flag to a lot of people, but they don't. It's not happening. People are getting into this more and more because they think of it as harmless fun, as a way to add some enjoyment to the game. And for a lot of people, it is. I'm not saying that everybody who gambles on sports takes it to the level of some of the players and the fans that are talked about in this article. They relayed from a player that when he's in the on-deck circle, he has fans yelling at him, "You better hit a home run. I got money riding on you.
Yeah.
Hit a double, hit a triple. It's on my parlay card." One player said that he had even had fans find his Venmo account and request money from him to cover their gambling losses. And that's apparently a pretty common thing. You know, if you've got it on your parlay card that so-and-so is going to hit a double and they don't hit a double, they go search out your Venmo and request the money from you that they lost.
I want to start doing that. It's not a bad idea.
So this is when it got really, really scary, Cole. In 2021, a 24-year-old gambler named Benjamin Tucker Patz pled guilty for sending a string of social media messages to 4 players on the Tampa Bay Rays and 1 player on the White Sox after a 2019 game that the Rays lost. Here's a selection, not all, but a selection of some of the things that Benjamin Tucker Patz said to these players. Quote, "I will sever your neck open, you pathetic bleep." Quote, "I will enter your home while you sleep and sever your neck open. I will kill your entire family. Everyone you love will soon die. I will cut up your family and dismember them alive." His penalty, 3 years of probation, 6 months of home confinement, 0 jail time. That's how crazy gambling makes people.
Well, you know, the thing about it is,
I guarantee you he's not the only one.
You know, the world has proven that if you allow psychos and crazy people to get guns, they're going to do bad things.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? The same is true if you allow psychos and people with issues to gamble, they're going to do bad things, right? It can be true with guns, drugs, gambling, whatever. The reality of it is people don't know how to be responsible rather. And when you see the commercials about gamble responsibly, it does mean like I have buddies who really do gamble responsibly and place $5 or $10 just so it gives them something to watch. I get it. They're not out there putting $1,000 on it, trying to make $1,000 or chasing, which is a terrible idea.
Yeah, if your idea is I'm going to gamble on this game to pay my mortgage, and if I don't win, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Like I don't know how I'm going to pay my mortgage, my phone bill, my car payment. I don't know how I'm going to do this if I don't win this bet.
Well, it's a reality. And listen, Michael Jordan, I mean, when you watch The Last Dance, his dad, you know, you believe what you want.
The conjecture is his dad was killed over MJ's gambling debts.
So that's what I'm saying. Like you believe what you want, but if you watch The Last Dance, man, like it's I'm not saying they admit to it. I'm not saying it implies anything. I'm just saying it's been going on for a long time and people take it serious. Yeah. It's best to stay out of it.
So they put a policy in place that says the clubs have to tell their fans to gamble responsibly and to not take it so seriously. It's like putting in the fine print on the back of a ticket, right? That you're not allowed to go out onto the field. Fans are prohibited from certain areas, yet they're going to do it anyway, right? They're going to do it because they want to do it. There is one restriction, again, Cole, that I think is completely feckless, doesn't actually do anything, but clubs are restricted from placing any betting information, that would be player props, over-unders, things like that, on their scoreboards during games. But I'd be willing to bet, Cole, that if DraftKings or whoever threw enough money at Major League Baseball, they would start putting these things up on the screen and you would have live gambling. See, people have forgotten how to enjoy the game for the game.
Yeah.
And they've made everything about the game what it is they're gambling on the game.
Well, the reality of it is, Diesel, the gambling companies and these leagues, while they'll never admit it publicly, they're thankful for it. They're happy that people are psycho about this because it drives the revenue up, and it absolutely just
helps it helps a lot of economy. I'm not saying it's right, but it helps a lot of economies. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, I just wonder how far does this have to go, Cole, before a major league, not Major League Baseball, but they are included in that list, before a major sports league says, you know what, that's enough. Does a star player have to get murdered after a game because a crazy fan, went after him because he scored 28 points when that guy had 30 on his parlay card? I mean, is that what it's going to take? I mean,
maybe so.
Think about it. Like, you think that's crazy, but I mean, what was the guy's name that murdered John Lennon because he was mad the Beatles broke up? There was a guy who murdered Dimebag Darrell from Pantera because he was mad that Pantera broke up.
Yeah.
I mean, psychos do psycho things. And especially when you add somebody's ability to pay their mortgage, or if their marriage is on the line because they're a gambling addict. People will snap and do crazy things.
Texter from the 354 says, have y'all seen the Gamecock baseball coaching news? We will get to that, not to interrupt the gambling conversation, but I have had a couple of different text messages, one from a source in Columbia. There has not been a hire made, but there is some breaking news, Diesel, that South Carolina baseball is targeting Paul Mainieri. Let me try that again. Paul Mainieri. Paul Mainieri. Paul may never know how to say his last name correctly. Paul Mainieri is the way I'm going to say it. That's the way I've heard it pronounced. Paul Mainieri. You know where he coaches?
Paul Mainieri?
Yeah, you know where he coaches? Nowhere. You know why?
Sacred Heart?
He's retired. He won the 2009 national championship at LSU. He's been out of baseball for the past 3 or 4 seasons. I think he retired in 2020. He is certainly older. I did get a text message that says, I can confirm that South Carolina has talked to Coach Paul Mainieri. I first heard this name early this afternoon, but had not been able to confirm it until just now. South Carolina has a board of trustees meeting on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. I do not know what time. It's probably in the evening.
Yep.
I have not confirmed this. Is this a source of mine saying this? I have not confirmed that he is absolutely the hire at this time, but signs certainly point to that.
Mainieri won a national championship with LSU.
Correct.
In 2009, runner-up in 2017, 39 seasons at LSU, Notre Dame, Air Force, and St. Thomas. I mean, come on. If you're not going to call your team the Cardiac Cox and have a guy who's coached, your coach's name is Pulmonary, I mean, it's too easy.
Oh,
it fits too well.
This is unbelievable.
You're going to pull a guy out of retirement. If that's the move, I mean, I'm not saying anything about his coaching ability. I don't know that I like the move of pulling a guy out of retirement.
He'll be 70 in 3 years.
Yeesh.
Paul Mainieri, listen. I know I got to put a space between there. Paul Mainieri, if I'm saying that right. Mainieri. Is it Mainieri? However you want to say it. Paul, Big Paul.
Yeah.
He was the head coach for 39 seasons. LSU, Notre Dame, Air Force, and St. Thomas. He does rank Diesel 8th all-time in wins with 1,505 wins. Like you said, he won the Natty in 07 or in 09. He was the runner-up in 17. He is one of 13 coaches to lead 2 different programs to College World Series, Baseball America Coach of the Year, but he'll be 70 in 3 years. Wow.
So what you're saying is he started his coaching career during the Carter administration.
Yeah, pretty much.
Sheesh.
This is unbelievable. If this is the hire, Ray, wait a minute. Here's another. Here is the latest tweet just a few minutes ago from David Cloninger of Post and Courier. Says South Carolina Board of Trustees has called a meeting for 4 p.m. tomorrow. On the agenda is approval of athletics employment contracts. So which means coaching talk, right? It could be a softball coach. They did just fire a softball coach. However, if this is true, this is in my opinion, initial reaction,
How many
just
people,
hearing it, not good in my opinion.
How many no's did you have to get through before you got a yes from a 70-year-old retired head coach?
I don't know that it even did he even call anybody else?
Wow.
Or did he just say, hey, this is the guy I want?
Did Paul call them? That's a fascinating question. If that's the hire, I don't think I haven't heard that name once in any of the conversation. I haven't heard that name from any of you Gamecock fans in the Tolo listening audience. That would be a shocker to me. And I would be very, very nervous about that hire if I'm a South Carolina Gamecock fan. And we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Yeah.
We will be having Will Vandervort from the Clemson Insider on the show next, Cole. But I think getting back to the conversation about all the gambling in sports, these sports know exactly what they're doing. They've gotten so deep in bed with these gambling leagues to chase the almighty dollar that I think it's going to very, very much negatively impact the sport and the way fans consume their sport.
Well, it's not trending in a good direction
and it happens so fast, right? It happens so fast since they started introducing legalized sports betting directly around stadiums.
All right, we're going to hit a break, but let us know your reaction to what could be breaking news within the next 24 hours. South Carolina targeting former LSU coach Paul Mainieri, however you want. We'll find out how you correctly say it, how they say it in the Bayou, but he's 3 years away from 70. South Carolina might have their next coach, and man, that's not impressive to me. What are your thoughts? 71307. Start your text with the word fan. He's Diesel, I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate. A lot of thoughts and reaction coming in on our text line about some news that South Carolina may be targeting Paul Mainieri, the former LSU coach, which is quite fascinating. I do not know what the initial reaction will be, but I can tell you I do not think it'll be very elated. I could be wrong. This one, in my opinion, just seems like it may be out of left field a little bit. However, at 420 is usually when we have our guest on, and we will continue that today as we bring in Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. Will, we appreciate you coming on, first of all, man. But, you know, it's like I said last night on a video I posted on our social medias, the sad part about what happened yesterday is the game itself will not be talked about as much. Now that you've had, 12 hours or so to sleep on this, chew on it a little bit, what's Will Vandervort's reaction to what you saw yesterday in Clemson?
Well, it was probably the craziest game I've ever covered, to be honest with you, from the 18-minute delay after the altercation between Jack Caleon and Clemson's Nolan Naraki, and then it turns out the guy who really didn't do anything in the whole thing was the guy tossed and Jack Crichton of Clemson. That was nuts to me that happened to begin with. And then just at that time, I get it. The umpires warned both teams and you continue to play the game. And then the game, I thought, was played at a high level from both teams. When you had big home runs made, you had some great plays in the field made, all the things that you love to see this time of year, right, with postseason college baseball. And so you're like, okay, this is great, other than the delay they had for a little while. And then there was some chirping going on between both teams as the game continued. I remember one situation where the catcher, I'm trying to say how you say his last name, Brody Donne, I believe that's how you say it. He hit a home run, and as he's rounding second base, he's clearly chirping at Cam Canarella, the Clemson center fielder. Nothing's done, though. You let it play out, which is fine because emotions are high, and these are elite athletes playing, and they're it happens, and you just let it be. And then later on, I think, Ashton Wilson hits a home run that gives Florida a 9-6 lead in the bottom of the 8th. He flips his bat toward the Clemson dugout, and nothing happens, so you're fine with it. And then Clemson ends up getting the big home run from Cam. They celebrated, but, there was no flipping of the bat or anything like that from Cam. It was just a regular celebration. But you go to the I guess what inning was that? The 13th. And, Clemson leadoff guy, Alden Mathis, he hits Alden hits the bomb to right field that lands off the top of the cages. And supposedly, he did. He spiked his bat or slammed it into the ground toward the Clemson dugout, celebrating with his teammates. That's just as we saw Florida had done earlier in the game, right? And all of a sudden, the officials have a problem with that, and they stop play again. And it leads to Jack Leggett, who just, lost it because he saw all the other things going on during the course of the game, and I think he lost control because he's like, why are you stopping play on this matter, but you didn't the previous others? I don't understand. Kind of explain this to us. And that's what Jack was yelling about when he came out of the dugout, and was saying some other choice words that I won't be able to say. And then that's what Eric Bakich's complaint was too, that the officials stopped the momentum of the game for Clemson after getting a big momentum home run hit to take the lead. The officials kind of stopped it and kind of took the momentum away from the crowd and Clemson. And that's what the Clemson people got upset about. And it was nuts, man. You were there. You saw everything that happened. And then, of course, Florida, give them credit. They come back in the bottom of the 13th inning, and they get 2 runs to score to win the game, get a walk-off to celebrate going to Omaha. And the sad thing about it, man, is nobody's talking about Florida's run, because the officials, in my opinion, the umpires, they stole the show. and they took it away from Florida, which I thought it's a great story that Florida's in Omaha, considering they were the last team to get into the field of 64. Everybody was upset that they got in over College of Charleston. As we all know, it's been well documented. Yes, they make it to Omaha by going to Clemson and winning, first going to Oklahoma State and winning 4 games out there, coming through the losers bracket, and then, beating Clemson 2 games in the Super Regional. Unfortunately, all anybody wants to talk about was how the officials lost control of the game there at the end, because I just thought they didn't handle things consistently throughout. And I'm not blaming Florida at all. I think Florida was the better team, and the better team won the series, in my opinion. I just think it was poorly handled by the umpires in this game, and it's really sad because all everybody's talking about today is those umpires and not what Florida did.
Will Vandervort, the Clemson insider, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Will, it's Diesel here. Do you want to see Clemson's schedule tougher in the out of conference to give fans these kinds of environments more often? Sold out crowd. You can't argue with just how nuts that place was, especially in the late innings. I felt like it had a bit of a Disney Channel vibe early in the game, but man, it got chippy and it got real late in that game. I mean, you look at the out of conference and who Clemson really plays every year. You played Georgia once this year, once last year. You played the 3-game series against South Carolina every year. But would you want to see Clemson scheduling Florida and Tennessee and teams like that more often so that they can have environments like this? I mean, it's way better than the environment you're going to have than hosting USC Upstate. No disrespect to them. But shouldn't we see this more often?
Well, first of all, Clemson and Georgia generally play a 3-game series every year. That is just the last couple of years, because of conference scheduling, they've had to just do it this way to try to get 1 game in. So Georgia, they've either played a home and home or they've played a 3-game series during the course of the season. So Clemson and Georgia have always been, they've played for the most part almost every year. And then, I mean, when you look at Clemson's non-conference schedule, it was like one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country this year. So I don't know if you want to play any harder than what they've already done, because you still got to play in the ACC. And the ACC is no slouch either. If NC State wins today, you're going to have 4 ACC teams and 4 SEC teams in the College World Series, and that's what it's been like all year. Those 2 conferences have dominated. So, I think Clemson's fine with their non-conference schedule. Next year, they did up it a little bit because they're going out to Texas and playing in that opening series out there in Arlington. They'll play, I believe, 3 or 4 games over there. So that came out a couple weeks ago before the season ended. That's how they'll open the season. Of course, they're going to go open it without Eric Bakich or Jack Crichton playing. Because Crichton's going to be suspended for 1 game and Eric Bakich will be suspended for 2 games for that. So, so they won't be able to go out there. They won't be full deck for those first couple games. No, I'm fine with what Clemson's baseball schedule is. Clemson generally always plays a tough non-conference baseball schedule. And they're going to play the USC Upstate. But let's remember, USC Upstate's a pretty darn good baseball team. They beat Clemson and South Carolina on a regular basis. It's not like and Coastal Carolina. I mean, it's not like they're chopped liver or anything. So they sometimes have a high RPI when they play Clemson and things of that nature. Now, and so I think for the most part, Clemson's non-conference schedule's fine because you got to weigh in. You're going to play a very difficult conference schedule too. And remember, going into non-conference schedule, Clemson was number 2 in the RPI. I mean, going into the conference season, Clemson was number 2 in the RPI because they played a very difficult non-conference schedule. I think they played Kansas State this year, who went on to the Super Regionals. That was a game Clemson hosted earlier this year as well. So, yeah, I think they're fine with what they got.
Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. You can follow him on Twitter at SteelerWill. Will, the only critique that I had of Clemson in the first segment of the show today was their pitching. I'm not saying you have to go out there and shut out the best lineups in the nation, but I want to hear your thoughts on what seemed to be like a team that had to chase a lot down the stretch. It didn't really seem like Clemson was the one getting chased yesterday, and in the first game with Florida, it seemed like Clemson was the one that was doing the chasing, in my opinion, because of the arms and just how dangerous Florida's lineup was.
Well, Clemson's been chasing all year. I mean, that's why they've rallied 25 times to win this season. I mean, that's been this team, and that's, we knew that going into the season that their pitching wasn't to that level that it needs to be, maybe to win a national championship or something like that. But their hitting was, and so that was what's going to carry the team, and that did all year long. I can only remember one game where Clemson didn't really hit the ball very well. All season, and that was early in the season, and that was more because they just didn't play well that day in an early season loss. But other than that, I think it's very rarely you saw Clemson not produce runs and get a lot of hits in a game. And like I said, they came back 25 times this season. The pitching is the issue, or was the issue all season long. Besides Aiden Canuck, they didn't get very much out of their other two weekend starters as far as going long ways into the game, getting into the 6th or 7th inning like you need. Canuck was the only one who was consistently able to do that. And yesterday, he just didn't have his best game yesterday, and that happens. You're not going to be on every week. You're gonna have those moments, but he's first team All ACC player for a reason. He's going to be fine. He went 5-1 this season as a true freshman, starting on the weekend rotation. There's not many guys that have done that, and to let people understand how rare that is, that he's a first-team All-ACC pitcher. Clemson has not had a first-team All-ACC pitcher as a true freshman since 1997. So that puts a little perspective on how rare that is, or how good he is. And what you got to do is you hope Tristan Smith can, get healthier and start showing some consistency, which I thought he pitched okay for the most part in game one. It's just that one inning it got away from him. But you hope he gets better, and then you got to find a third guy, and that's where Clemson has really struggled, is finding that third piece where they can have 3 solid starters on the weekend. Because what they've done is they taxed their bullpen, and nobody wants to tax their bullpen, and Clemson had to start taxing their bullpen in the 5th inning of game 1, and then Canuck didn't really have it, and they had to bring in somebody by the 5th inning in game 2. So that's where the problems lied all weekend, and that's where it's lied all season for them. Is they just haven't got the starting pitching that they needed.
Well, there's a handful of guys on this roster who are seniors and graduates, Hinderleiter, Obertop, Mathis, guys like them that could very well possibly be on the move for draft graduation. You would hope that this would be an easy answer, but we saw with UConn and men's basketball after they won a national title, their first one, they had to replace most of their roster. How much of this team that you get a sense will Eric Bakich be able to hold on to going into next year?
Hold on to is a great word, because in this day and age of transfer portal, and yes, tampering does happen, it's hard to hold on to players. As you can imagine, Cam Canarella is going to be probably the most sought after guy in the country. If people didn't know who he was, which is foolish if you didn't, but if they didn't know who he was, they do now after the way he played yesterday. So, that's going to be the key, is to try to bring back the nucleus of this team. Like you mentioned, they're going to lose guys like Jacob Hinderleiter. They're going to lose a guy like Alden Mathis, Blake Wright. Those are guys, Jimmy Obertop. Those are guys that are just gone because they've used all their eligibility. So, and then you got a couple other guys like an Austin Gordon who's can come back next year, but he's probably going to be drafted high, maybe in the first 10 rounds. And what does he do? If it's me, if I'm him, I probably go pro if that happens, because there's a lot of money there, right? And, so there's some questions that, they're going to have to answer here in the next couple of weeks, and they're going to lose some people. What you hope is that guys like Cam Canarello and Jaron Purify, that those guys come back, and, Aiden Canuck, you hope those guys are coming back, because they were all big freshmen. When you look at how Eric Bakich has recruited and the freshmen he's brought in, Cam Canarello was his guy. He was a true freshman All-American last year, first team All-ACC, the year before. And then, this year he gets Aiden Canuck, who's going to be a freshman All-American and first team All-ACC. And you got a Jaron Purify, who's got potential to be a superstar, I think, in his own right. Those are guys Bakich has brought in as true freshmen, and look how good they are and how they went over and, how they have progressed throughout the season and gotten better. in their freshman season with Canarello to sophomore season now this year to now those other guys who were true freshmen and what they did. And you look at a guy like, Jacob McGovern, the pitcher who came in and shut Florida down after that fifth inning in game one, he's another guy, true freshman this year that they developed really well. So I think, Eric recruits well. And so we'll see what he can do there. And then also what pieces does he bring in the transfer portal? He went to the transfer portal last year and got some pretty good guys like Jacob Himmelreiter, like Andrew Schufo, who got injured towards ACL early in the year, but he was having a good year before he tore his ACL. So he's brought in some good guys from the portal as well. So how well does he do? And you got to imagine after what happened in the bottom of the 13th or the top of the 13th yesterday, there's going to be a lot of people that want to play for Eric Bakich, that's for sure.
Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. Will, my last question for you. It seemed as if South Carolina Gamecock fans came out of hibernation last night around, 7:15 or so. Is there any argument in your mind who really is the premier baseball program in this state at this very moment?
I don't know if I can answer that. It depends on who you ask. If you're asking a guy that's wearing a Clemson T-shirt, he's going to say Clemson. If you're asking a guy who's wearing a Gamecock T-shirt, he's going to say Carolina. I think right now you give Clemson the edge because Clemson has bragging rights. Right? They beat them They beat them this year. They swept them, and so by that you go ahead and say Clemson right now is the program. And Clemson's got a program that's was just 2 games from Omaha this year, where South Carolina now is replacing the head coach and starting over. So you say Clemson's ahead. I wouldn't say Clemson is a superior program by any stretch, because I think South Carolina has the pieces in place. Well, whoever they bring in to be their head coach is going to be able to be successful and probably, like Clemson, be able to do it fast, like Bakich has done here at Clemson. So they're both elite baseball programs. They have been for decades, and that's going to continue to be the case. It's the best college baseball rivalry in the country. It's no argument. And, I look forward to see how it's going to be in the future. These two play baseball at a high level as good as anybody, and they both got the numbers to back it up with a number of College World Series appearances. South Carolina's won 2 national championships, and they can brag. Both teams can. Clemson's been the premier team in the ACC for decades since the conference started in baseball, and that's still the case. And as far as number of championships and things of that nature, and South Carolina has dominated baseball for a long time and has been one of the top teams in the country for a long time. So I'm not going to get an argument who's better. I just say right now, you say Clemson owns the bragging rights, and that's where it stands.
Well, I don't think any of us want to see, college baseball, the balls be deadened or the bats be deadened. As much as it raises people's blood pressure, a lot of home runs is really exciting. It makes college baseball an awful lot of fun. But, one thing that I think we might be seeing eventually, we're seeing it coming towards Major League Baseball. We're seeing it in minor league baseball. Robo umpires. I'm thinking back to the really 2 bad called strikes against Ty Olenchuk, and I think that was in the 8th or the 9th inning. I mean, these are 2 pitches that he thought both were ball 4, and he was dropping his bat, trotting off to first base. Both of them called strikes. Are you in favor of bringing robo umps to college baseball?
I'm not, and let's also not forget that the Florida player was awarded a base after a foul ball hit off his leg. I believe that was it, right? So. You had that happen too. I'm not, because I'll tell you guys, I'm not in favor of instant replay. I hate it personally, because it seems like instant replay,
it's far from instant, right?
40%, well, that, and 40% of the time they get it wrong. It may be lower than that, but it seems like it's 40% of the time. So I'm like, if you're going to be horrible at it, why have it? Right? And so I feel this way too. It's like, we don't need to bring the human element of the game. What happened last night is what makes it fun. It's what makes sports fun. If we take that away, it's not as fun. You take that element out, and then, what happens if there's a glitch in the computer? Because it can happen. Computers definitely aren't. Who runs computers, guys? As I always tell everybody, there's got to be somebody that's got to plug it into the wall. It's got to have power. And so there's always a chance things can mess up. Humans are going to mess things up at some point anyway. Why not just keep it the way it is and just let that element play its role? So I've always felt that way. And like I said, if they could get rid of instant replay in the NFL and in college football, I would be probably the happiest person in the world.
Will, great stuff. Yeah, today, Will, we appreciate you hopping on, and good to see you yesterday, and hope you can jump on with us again very soon in the future.
Yeah, guys, I appreciate you having me, man.
Thanks,
anytime,
Will.
Just give me a holler.
Absolutely. That is Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. A lot to react to, Diesel, from what he said yesterday's game. Obviously, we led the show with it, but we will get back to it, I'm sure, today.
Yeah, sad to see his team lose, but, man, that guy can be chipper about anything.
And real quick, I am seeing more and more reports that South Carolina may be closing in on the next baseball coach.
Cole, when we come back, as we have, we're going to have a very short segment on the other side. I want to ask you, Cole, what's a sport? And I use that term loosely because you all know my definition of sport. What sport is just too nerdy for you to compete in? I got one for you coming up next on the Fan Upstate. What's one of the fastest growing sports in America right now? Pickleball.
Yeah.
I look at pickleball and I think, man, that's nerdy as hell. But I bet it's fun. I bet it's fun to play. The question is, Cole, is there a sport, loose definition, the overall definition of sport, not my definition of sport, that you would say, that's just too nerdy. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. Like, there's a lot. If you look down the full list of Olympic sports that are going to be performed in Paris this year, Cole, there's a lot of really nerdy sports happening in the Olympics. A lot of, I didn't even know that was an Olympic sport. Well, this happened, Cole, in a European race walking event where a woman named Laura Garcia Caro missed out on a bronze medal during the European Athletics Championship 29-kilometer race walk when she slowed down too early to celebrate. She stuck her tongue out. She raised her hand in the air. She's like, yeah, I got this. I'm third place. And then she gets passed for third place. Have you ever watched competitive race walking? It might be the nerdiest thing I've ever seen.
No,
like,
don't plan on it.
There's rules. Like your foot has to be in connection with the ground at all time. Your leg has to be straight until it passes under the body. Like, there's no way to make race walking look cool. There's just absolutely no way. But, this lady, she slowed down in the last 100 meters or so. She raised her hand, stuck her tongue in the air. She's like, yeah. She got passed by a Ukrainian woman in the last 5 meters, right before the finish line. I know Americans don't have any concept of what 5 meters is. Just call it roughly 5 yards. She started to panic. She was devastated. But Cole, there's some really nerdy things in the Olympics this year that I, in no way, shape, or form, I'm too cool for this. I don't say I'm too cool for a lot of things, but I am too cool for race walking. I am too cool for Olympic trampolining.
Yeah.
I am too cool, believe it or not, this is a thing, for solo synchronized swimming. What the hell is solo synchronized swimming? What are you synchronizing with? I'm not kidding you. That's an Olympic sport.
That's
solo
weird.
synchronized swimming. The modern pentathlon that doesn't make any sense, that involves swimming, fencing, jumping, long distance running, and pistol shooting.
Huh.
Why is that a thing?
Wow.
Don't know, but it is. There's a 200-meter swimming obstacle race where you have to swim under like 5 boats that are lashed together. It's like an obstacle race, but 200 meters swimming. And then finally, Cole, I don't think this is an Olympic sport, but give it time. It will be. I don't know if you've ever seen this. Most of the time you just see it in like really cheesy YouTube videos or Instagram videos, but competitive hobby horsing. You ever seen that?
No, I haven't.
It's, you know what a hobby horse is, right? It's like the toy you might have had when you were a kid that's like a stuffed horse head on a broomstick, and you ride it around like you're riding a horse. You played cowboys and Indians, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So that's a hobby horse. There is competitive hobby horsing.
Wow.
Yeah, where really, really nerdy white people, I think like 98% of the competitors are from Utah, and they have different categories. They have rodeo.
Mm-hmm.
They have dressage, like that really fancy horse riding stuff. But there's no horse involved. It's just a stick with a horse head on it.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
pass.
far too nerdy. Wouldn't compete
pass.
in any of those sports.
Before we hit a break, I do want to let you know that Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball has tweeted out that Paul Marineri is expected to be named the head baseball coach of South Carolina. D1 Baseball has learned Marineri guided LSU to the 2009 National Championship and has tallied more than 1,500 wins in his career. It was first reported by Teddy Cahill, national writer of Baseball America. So Gamecock fans, number one, let us know your reaction, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Number two, listen, I don't want to hear one single person complain about this hire, because you know why? JD, I've already seen you on the stream complaining about it. You didn't want a young guy who was up and coming. So guess what? You got exactly what you deserve. Grandpa. So Grandpa's leading your program. He's 3 years from 70. You get what you deserve because Landon didn't have SEC experience. Well, guess what? Hope you and Papa have a good freaking 2 years before he gets dementia.
How did you say his name? Marinari?
Marinara sauce.
It's gotta be Maineri. Maineri. It's Mainieri.
I have no idea.
He is old AF, dude. He looks like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. He is old.
This is ridiculous, man. Ray Tanner. I mean, what a hire this is.
So I know that Landon Powell is Gamecock through and through, and I know that we're gonna get to this Twitter thread where he just blasted a Gamecock fan on social.
Sure. We might have to do that after the 5
At this
o'clock.
point, Cole, at this point for Landon, I know he wouldn't do this because he's too nice of a guy for this. He's got too much class for this. We don't. You and I, we don't. I would take another SEC job just to rub it in South Carolina game.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Like if a job comes open at Florida, I mean, Kevin O'Sullivan's no spring chicken, right? He could take a job at Florida. He could take a job in the ACC. I mean, hell, could you imagine? Could you imagine if Landon joined the Clemson staff just to rub it in Gamecock fans' faces?
Unbelievable. And we'll get to those tweets. We may have to do them in the 520 segment if we can squeeze them in.
Paul Mainieri looks like the grandpa from Jurassic Park.
You got who you deserve. That's all I got to say. You got who you deserve, if that's true. Texter says, by the way, Cole, fantastic coverage yesterday. Enjoyed following along. Texter, I appreciate you. Appreciate you listening to the show as well. Right here on the Fan Upstate. It is time to do what we do every single day at 5 o'clock. We will get into what we're talking about with the Landon Powell tweets, I promise, coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. But next, we fight it out. He's Diesel. I'm Cole Bryson, and this is the Fan Upstate.
Well, the texts are already coming in on the text line 71307, as well as the stream. Fire Ray Tanner, and Fire Ray Tanner. I had 2 phone calls during the break. It seems as if Gamecock fans are fired up. We'll get back to it. South Carolina Gamecocks are closing in on a candidate. We'll tell you more about it if you just tuned in. But first, it is time, Diesel, to get ready to debate. We do it every single day at 5 o'clock.
Three topics, one winner. It's the 5 o'clock fight on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson on the Fan Upstate.
We've been having some good feedback on our Twitter about people tuning in for the very first time. So if it's your first time tuning in, want to let you know, 5 o'clock fight every day. Diesel and I have to disagree. He will pick one side. I'll pick the other. You decide who wins and who loses by texting 71307. Start your text with the word fan. We're also live on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Let's get it started. All right, Diesel, I know that you're not a big mac and cheese guy. I will tell you something else that you may not know. I'm not either. I'm not a big fan of it, but I do eat it occasionally. But the question for round one is, I think we'll get a little bit of feedback from our audience on this. When you do choose to eat mac and cheese, do you prefer it creamy with a lot of cheese, or do you prefer it like the casserole type?
I like the casserole type. Hey, you said it. I don't love mac and cheese. It's not one of my favorites. I don't go straight for it when I'm, at a Thanksgiving or a Christmas dinner or something like that. I don't go straight for the mac and cheese. I can't stand out-of-the-box Kraft mac and cheese. Will not eat it. Don't touch it. Don't ever bring that stuff into my house. But it has to be the baked kind, man. Like I need that crunchy crust on the top. I mean, if you really want me to chow down on some mac and cheese, you got to add some stuff to it. It cannot be just mac and cheese.
I like that.
Okay, it's got to have some bacon in it. It's got to have some other stuff mixed in with it. But don't give me that creamy stuff. It's just something about it. Like I don't know. It's the consistency. I get sick sometimes when I eat way too much cheese, and of course it's like all cheese.
Problem.
That's 50% of the dish is cheese.
Have you had the lobster mac and cheese?
No, that sounds delicious.
God, so good.
That sounds delicious.
It's so good.
But if it's casserole type.
Well, it is.
It
is. But I will say this. I agree with you on, and this might be a hot take that me and you get pushback on, but I agree with you. I'm not the biggest mac and cheese guy either. Like, I don't eat it a lot. Really, I don't. I don't hate it. It's just not my favorite. However, when I do eat it, I want it like really, really creamy. I want it just sloppy. Cut that audio out, right? Mark that.
Like if I'm going back to broke college kid days, if I need something real cheap to eat, I'd much rather eat ramen noodles than Kraft mac and cheese.
Really?
Oh yeah.
See, I'll push back on that now. I don't know. But do you actually cook them, or do you just eat them out of the bag like I used to do?
Both.
Okay,
I mean, you microwave it. You can cook it on a pot. You know. In college, you didn't have a pot. Freshman, sophomore year, you couldn't have a hot plate in a dorm room. So you had to make it in the microwave.
I've eaten many ramen noodles just as they are. But if I have to choose the mac and cheese,
crunchy, hard.
Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, whoa.
100%.
Were you drunk at the time?
No, completely not.
Just bite it off.
Yes.
Wow.
I promise you, that is
Shane
more
Barrett
common.
says, what is wrong with both of you?
I told you the mac and
mac
cheese
and
would get it. I'm not a big mac and cheese guy.
No, it's not my thing.
I don't hate it.
It's not even on the metal stand for me.
But when I want it. I like, if you go get it out of the box right now, I'm all in. Like, I love it. I love it out of the box. How about this? Texter says, whatever your mac and cheese, eat it with barbecue sauce? Are you kidding me, Texter? We'll have to get back to that.
Is it like mayo where you put it on anything and just adds to it and it just makes it better?
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to that. So Diesel says he prefers the mac and cheese like a casserole. I say I prefer it creamy. I like it wet. Madcraft says Cole eats raw noodles. Again, alien. That is a common misconception. People think I'm an alien for whatever reason. I don't know why. All right, it's time for
Round 2, fight.
Diesel. We talked about it earlier. We had a little bit of a response, not much, just 30 texts or so. Caitlin Clark not being on the Olympic team. The texters did weigh in earlier, but we have to decide now who wins round 2. Is it a mountain or is it a molehill for her being left off the Olympic team?
Look, there's only 12 players that make the U.S. women's Olympic team. She is not one of the 12 best players that puts the U.S. women's basketball in a position to be dominant and to go out and win another gold. It is a molehill, Cole. She's very young in this league. She has not done enough at this point. And hey, WNBA results are not the end-all, be-all, right? It's just the sample size and the data we have right in front of us. I don't think she's done enough to earn a spot on the Olympic team. We're trying to win. We're not trying to capture headlines. We're not trying to get eyeballs from all over the world because guess what? The viewers in Uzbekistan don't give a rip who Caitlin Clark is. They're not going to tune in because Caitlin Clark is playing, okay? You need the best 12 players in the world, no matter what, women, American women on this team. Molehill.
So Diesel says molehill. You said you want to win. Well, guess what? I say it's a mountain because all Caitlin Clark has done is win. What's the song? What? All you do is win. Well, all she has done is win. Like you said, no matter what. She has won everywhere. Caitlin Clark's exceptional. She's, in my opinion, the best pure shooter in the WNBA. I don't think we'll ever see a pure shooter as good as she has been on this earth. I love watching Caitlin Clark, and let's be honest, we wouldn't talk about the WNBA at all or the Olympics if it weren't.
Is it true that every time she steps up in the building, everybody's hands go up?
And they stay down. And they stay down. All right, I'll move on. It's not as good when you say it and not sing it, you know?
All right. We can't auto-tune our voices. Not live on the radio.
But we can do AI. We can do the AI version of All I Do Is Win. How about that? We need to try that. So to recap, round 1, mac and cheese, creamy or casserole? Diesel says casserole. I say creamy. Round 2, Caitlin Clark being left off Team USA. Mountain or molehill? Diesel says molehill. I say mountain. That leaves one final round.
Final round. Fight.
Diesel, last night we saw Eric Bakich and Jack Leggett get tossed. Mm-hmm. Was this smart or was this a stupid move for the head baseball coach to allow his emotions to get the hold of him, to get it to him the way they did?
It's incredibly stupid. I mean, it fired the team up. It had its desired effect. But if they'd won, Cole, and made it to game 3, they would be without both Eric Bakich and Jack Leggett. They would have the 2 leaders of this team not in the dugout. And we heard it earlier. I didn't realize this transferred from one season to the next from Will Vandervort.
Yeah.
Eric Bakich and Jack Leggett won't be in the dugout for the beginning of the season next year.
That's correct.
Because of this. So, look, it's stupid. After Bakich saw that Jack Leggett had been tossed, he needed to take a step back. You can argue your case. All these coaches know what it is that's going to get them tossed. Just don't cross that line. It was stupid.
I think that at this point in the game, Eric Bakich felt like something had to be done. It was the last straw for Eric Bakich, and he was literally just upset like every other Clemson fan that was in attendance. It was an outrageous umpire show all day long, and I'm sure Eric Bakich had enough. I say it was a smart move on his part to get the team fired up, to see if that could be the little bit of juice that was needed, Diesel, to get them over the hill. However, they just didn't have the pitching to hold up. I say smart move by EB.
How many times have you ever seen the umpire say, oh, you know what, coach? Because you so vehemently argued your point, I see where you're coming from. Let's go ahead and reverse that call.
Let's talk it out.
Never. That never happens. So
no,
it was dumb for Bakich to do that.
All right, if you want to suggest a fight, you can do so. Here is how.
You want Diesel and Bryson to fight about next.
If you've got an ass, I'll kick it.
Submit your topics to Diesel at thefanupstate.com. Subject line, fight on the Fan Upstate.
So, Diesel, you want to go stream or text here? Which whenever you have up first?
I will go on the stream, even though it's not going well for me so far. Madcraft says Diesel wins round 1 because Cole is weird. He says Cole wins round 2, so he liked your take on Caitlin Clark, said she should have been on the Olympic team.
Okay.
And then Madcraft says, got to go Cole round 3. I want my coach fired up and backing me up like that. Man, again, I don't have a problem with Bakich being fired up. I loved it, as a matter of fact. I'm just saying I think it was stupid because it would have cost them having your head coach in the dugout in game 3. So I'm just saying you probably needed to be a little bit smarter in that scenario. Let's see. Shane Barrett says Cole wins round 1. He likes the saucy, creamy mac and cheese. He says, I win round 2, but agree with both points of view we made. Shane, that's not what we do here. You got to pick one.
We've had too much agreement.
He did go with me on that one. So he's like, I see where you're both coming from, but he leans me. So I appreciate that anyway.
Shane.
And then he says, Diesel wins round 3 because it didn't work. So it was dumb.
I like this text. Alan B says round 1 Diesel. I don't like that part of it. He says, I make a smoked mac and cheese with panko crust that is amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Okay, texter, that sounds good. Round 2 Diesel. She will be there next 3 Olympics. Well, we hope she is, right? Unless she has something happen to her, because things do happen. She might not be playing basketball. I don't know. I'm not just saying that. We never know. But Alan did give me round 3. Thank you, Alan, for giving me 1 round. Got to win to get there. He did what he thought was best to fire up his team. Diesel, you're getting a couple of wins on the text line as well. The 262.
Okay, go ahead and read them all.
I'm going to read every one of them. 262 says, Fan, Cole is a psycho for eating hard ramen noodles. Diesel round 1, Diesel round 2, and Diesel round 3. Clean sweep. How does that happen?
Yeah.
I mean,
It's called being right.
oh. I did not get a response from the 975 on round 3, but he did say Diesel wins round 1 and 2.
It doesn't really matter at this point, Cole. You've already lost.
Let's see if there's any more. I'm trying to find one.
You want a
Let me
moral
find
victory.
one.
You want a moral victory here,
Let
don't
me
you?
found one. 262 says Molehill. All right, not that one. Let's see. 864421 says y'all are buffoons. Mac and cheese rules. It's not the best. I could pick 5 other sides right now that are better. 3.
I mean, we are in the South, Cole, where people, they pass their mac and cheese recipes down in their wills.
Yeah, I get it.
Like people take this very, very seriously. It's just not my thing.
The 432 says college at 2 a.m. with no butter or milk. Just boil and add water. Your state of mind will think it's amazing. I've done that. I've done that.
This Blank Daddy on the stream.
Oh, he's done.
He says, I'm fed up with it. Check out my new name in protest. He used to be Spur Daddy. He's not Spur Daddy. He's taken the Spur out of his username, and he is just Blank Daddy.
The South Carolina Gamecock fan base, Diesel, has reached a all-time low.
Ooh, here's what we need to do, Cole. We need to fill that blank. We need the Tolos to suggest a new Twitter, the first half of Spur Daddy, the artist formerly known as Spur Daddy's new handle needs to be Blank Daddy. This could go into some really weird places.
Oh, man, I've got some good ones already. I've got some good ones. I think it should be Bakich is my daddy, Spur Daddy. How about that? Can you change it to that?
Madcraft says, out of respect to myself, I can't go around calling you daddy. He won't call you daddy.
That's a good point. It's a good point. Texter from the 865 says Crunchy Mac. So you win, I think. Right? I think.
Yep. Crunchy Mac.
I don't know about Crunchy. Molehill, stupid move by Bakich. So another clean sweep for Diesel. Texter from the 803, Diesel says, my grandma used to make that kind of mac and cheese, so Diesel gets round 1.
No, he says Diesel reminds me of my grandma.
Oh, I haven't gotten there yet. Diesel reminds me of my grandma. Round 2, Diesel, he's on point. Just win. And round 3, Cole, when I want my employees fire up, I go nuts on the district manager. We appreciate the text there.
How about we fill that blank with a Hoosier? And then that way he's Hoosier Daddy.
Hoosier, I like that.
Yeah,
that's a good
how
one.
about that?
Texter,
Formerly Spur Daddy, Hoosier Daddy.
804 Diesel says, unless it's crockpot, cheesy mac and cheese. I like crockpot mac and cheese. I'm a Clemson fan. I can't rename Spur Daddy, and Diesel wins all 3 today. Spartanburg J. Diesel has paid off a lot of Tolos. Oh, I like that one right there. Shane Barrett with a good suggestion.
Tolo Daddy.
That's a good one.
What's TOLO stand for?
Turn it on, leave it on.
You know, we had a lot of listeners asking us over the past couple of days what that meant. And that just means there are more people tuning into the show.
Yeah.
And while we have the interaction, while you guys are here, I want to tell you something. No breaking news or anything, but we had a huge reaction. What was it? Friday, I believe, at Thornblade. About 4:20, when we talked about the Tolos wearing the crown. Well, there have been a lot of conversations on the text line over the last couple of days about what Tolo wears the crown. I have bad news for you, but I also have good news for you. Diesel, the bad news is we've had good interaction today, but nobody's came in with a strong enough
No
point
crown worthy?
Nope, nothing crown worthy today.
And this thing resets every day.
Correct. It
Every
does reset. If I had to give it to someone, I'd give it to Shane because he said Tolo Daddy. So he's using the branding of the show, right? But we've got to have some stronger opinions. That includes text messages, calls on the Renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone. Listen, we appreciate your feedback, but Diesel and I, we say crown. You got to come in with some strong takes, strong opinions.
One of us, we wear it. It's a proverbial crown. We both wear it, and then you have to take it off our heads.
Now, I don't know. I might have to take that back, Diesel. Spur Daddy changing his name on YouTube. That's pretty good. I mean, that's pretty good. I like, Spur Daddy says he came up with Tolo Daddy. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to give the credit to Shane there. Listen, the Gamecocks are not happy. Why are they not happy? Well, it seems as if South Carolina is closing in on a new baseball coach.
See, we want all of you to have the same mentality as Caitlin Clark, where she said they woke up a monster.
Yeah, that's right.
And thank you for pointing that back out to us, JD. She said they woke up a monster when they didn't put her on the team. I mean, think about it. Isn't that the story of why Michael Jordan became so great? It's because they didn't put him on his high school freshman JV team.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly didn't put him on that team. And that's what drove him, right? Let this be the thing that drives Caitlin Clark so that 4 years from now, she's out there dropping 40 a game in international play.
Madcraft says, last time I had an opinion, you said I had a loser mentality, Cole. Madcraft, I may have said that, but don't let that shut
He's
you
keeping
down.
Receipts. Woo!
That is great. That is great. That is fantastic. I apologize if I offended you, but look, I have to.
Well, then don't have a loser mentality.
That's right.
The easiest way for us to not say you have one is don't have one.
So continue to get your thoughts in on Paul Maneri.
Maneri? I still hear pulmonary.
Paul,
which is a heart attack.
Okay, let me say Paul differently. Paul.
That's a coronary. No, pulmonary is a.
I can't say Paul any differently. Paul. I feel like I'm saying Paul Feinbaum.
Paul
Maneri.
Pulmonary is in your lungs. Excuse me.
What is it exactly?
Pulmonary embolism is a blockage in a lung artery caused by a substance that travels through the bloodstream from another part of the body. So when I hear pulmonary, all I can hear is pulmonary.
That's what Gamecock fans are having right now.
Yeah.
Pulmonary.
They're having trouble breathing. That's for sure.
That's for sure because Ray Tanner has hired Grandpa Paul, Uncle Paul. Not yet. I said hired. It is expected. Kendall Rogers sent out a tweet. If you just tuned in, Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball sent out a tweet that said, hey, Paul Maneri, if we're saying that properly, hope we are. If we're not, it's okay.
You'd think we'd know because he's a legendary coach who has a national title.
Yeah, but he has a terrible name.
Yeah, he has this title in the 2000s. It's a long time ago.
He's expected, Paul is, to be named the new head baseball coach of South Carolina. How about that? He is how old? 66, turning 67 this year.
I think we may have a crown-worthy text here. It says, new branding for the Gamecock Ballpark to be announced. Founders Park and Assisted Living Facility. Such a poor hire. That comes from Alan B.
I like that text, Alan.
Take the crown?
Yeah.
You're awarded. Yeah. Officially awarded, Alan B. I'll see how long you can hold on.
Do we have a sound effect for the presentation of the crown?
I don't know. We have a bell. You want to play the bell?
Oh, yeah, I have a bell.
We have a bell. At least that's something better than nothing right now.
I don't know if this is a good bell, though. No, not a good one. I need a...
We need some like trumpets.
Like a king's coming in, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Texter says, Spur, formerly Spur, you should be Mad Daddy. Oh, would Madcraft allow that? If he was Mad Daddy,
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all.
would Mad? Yeah,
All right, we've got to talk sports.
yeah. When we
Rabbit
come
hole.
back here, Cole, how many Uber Eats orders would Ipe Mizuhara have to deliver to pay off the $17 million he owes? Well, it doesn't matter because he just got fired from Uber Eats.
What
the hell? Kicking a man when he's down. We'll talk about that next on the Fan Upstate. Don't pull a muscle reaching for those headlines, Uber Eats. Good God. Like, this is completely unnecessary. It's designed to kick a man while he's down and get people paying attention to you. Gabriela Concordo Casada, which now makes me want a quesadilla.
Can you say that 10 times fast?
Gabriela Concorda Quesada. Gabriela Concorda Casada. Gabriela Concorda Casada. Gabriela Concorda Casada.
That's pretty good.
She represents Uber Eats, I guess, publicly, and she has officially announced that Ipe Mizahara, who had been working as a courier for Uber Eats for a number of years, is fired.
Wait a minute. Time out. You said for a number of years?
Ipe has been an Uber Eats driver, along with being an interpreter for basically the richest player in baseball a number of years.
I thought you were going to say like he just started.
No. She says he's worked there for a couple of years. Given the recent charges, he no longer has access to the platform. You think? Any in jail? Isn't Ipe in jail, or is he out right now on bond until they take this thing to trial?
He might be still. I don't know, but what the man do? Like, what do you have to do to get fired from?
Like, how's he going to pay back the 17 mil he owes? His plea agreement says that he is required to pay Ohtani restitution that could total nearly $17 million, as well as more than $1 million to the IRS. How is he supposed to pay off that money if he can't deliver for Uber Eats?
Yeah, that's bogus.
I looked it up, Cole. As of 2022, Uber Eats drivers, and anybody in our audience whose side hustle is Uber Eats, let us know what the number is now. But as of 2022, it said here that Uber Eats drivers were paid on average about $9.50 per delivery plus tips.
Wow.
So just based off of what they make for doing the delivery, Ipe would have to deliver 1.7 million orders to pay off the 17 million he owes.
1.7. Let me do the math on that. 1.7 million. So let's say he had to do it in 3 years. Okay.
Oh,
is that not fair?
1.7. Sure.
You're saying 1.7 mils he has to deliver, right?
1.7 million orders. Yeah, that's 1.7 times 10 is the $17 million. So he wouldn't make any money at all.
He'd have to do 141,000 a month. 141,000 orders a month, which is 35,000 a week. That's sad, man. Why do you fire somebody from delivering food?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't even know you could get fired from Uber Eats. So
I guess if you get busted for stealing people's food a lot, I mean,
they put those, just like delete the app.
I guess. I mean, they ban you from being on the app, and then I don't know if they share like a database, Uber Eats and Grubhub and all that. Like, do they share a database? If you get fired, for example, for stealing or tampering with somebody's food on Uber Eats, do they pass that along and you can't work for Grubhub now too?
Would that be an all-time low of lows to wake up one morning, reach out of bed, grab your phone, open your app? I'm going to go deliver some food today, and you have been banned from delivering food with Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's rough, man. That's rough. I want to know. I'd love to know from our Tolos, what is your side hustle? Like, you know, everybody's got one.
Yeah.
Everybody's doing something to make it. Yeah. Everybody's doing a little something on the side to make money. I know, Cole, you own your own business installing security systems.
Sure. Yep.
But that's not really a side hustle. I mean, you could almost say that this is your side hustle.
You weren't supposed to say that on the radio, Diesel. That wasn't supposed to be said, but you said it, not me.
No, I mean, everybody makes a little money on the side, you know. I mean, I could have told the world that you sell feet pics on the internet.
I've thought about it.
Yeah? You have?
I have thought about it. I don't know. I mean, if I could make money doing it, you know. Is there anything, I mean, unethically wrong with selling feet? People act like that's a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. If people are willing to pay for it, go for it, I guess. I mean, you know, people don't just sell pictures of their feet, though. Like, they got to dip their feet in sprinkles or
like peanut butter.
I mean, hey, if that's what people are into.
Nutella or peanut butter?
Yeah.
I would probably say.
Would you rather dip your toes in crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter? Crunchy or creamy?
I'm always a crunchy guy.
Yeah, me too.
I'm a crunchy guy. I like the nuts.
I got a side hustle. I mean, I donate plasma. It goes to a good cause, medical research, helping people who need it, and I make a little money.
I mean, it's not a bad
Not a
idea.
lot, but it's a little.
You know, I was never like a big blood donor, but one day this was like 3 or 4 years ago, I was driving and I saw this sign, and it was for real, like a $25 or $50 gift card to donate blood. Who would?
I got it 45 minutes.
I mean, yeah, you want 2 doses? Like here's my both arms, you know?
Tolos, what's your side hustle?
I like side hustles. I've always been if people know me, the ones that are listening that do know me, they know I've always been a side hustle guy.
Texter says, I'm trying to eat right now. Can you not talk about feet?
What are you eating, Texter? Because if you tell me what you're eating, I'm really going to make it worse. So I would advise.
Cole has shown his feet. He's shown his toes on this very station.
At Ingles.
At an Ingles.
Yeah. I think I got called into HR the next day.
Yeah. People said, I didn't know they moved the fish department to the front of the store.
They did. They sell fish and Ingles. All right, let's go to the Rule by Anderson, the Carolinas fan phone before we get thrown off the air. JD wants to chime in. I'm glad, JD, that you called because I thought when I heard you on Jim Rome earlier, you were going to big time us.
Oh, well, listen, I'm not trying to get run on there, all right? I'm trying to get racked on the Jim Rome show. Everybody knows he's got this whole little terrible phone call. If you got a bad phone call, man, he'll run you out of there in a minute. So, no, I always just try to avoid.
Better be glad we don't.
Jim Rome on the Jim Rome show. You know what I mean?
You didn't thank us for taking your call, listen, JD. You are big timing us.
Cole mentioned something first, Diesel. I was actually going to say I owe y'all two big thank yous. I missed my one the last time I called. So thank you for taking my call 2 times, not once, but twice.
There you go.
But hey, I got a quick story for you. So you know that my side gig now is Instacart. But I do have to admit that I was an Uber driver down in Charleston, and I did get kicked off of Uber after the whole debacle with the girl in Columbia with the Uber driver that went missing. So I got approved though to be an Uber driver with a not so good record. You know, we'll call it. It's the 3 letters DUI, and I had one of those back in 2010. But I got approved to drive for Uber. I had like a 4.97 rating. I was good to go. And so one day I logged on to try to drive and they were like, nope, you're under review. And so after they placed everybody under review though, I got thrown off of Uber. And so, hey, shout out though to Cole showing his feet, give me smooth peanut butter. Hey,
this show has gone off the rails. Like, where did that just go with a lady getting abducted? What?
Yeah, you don't remember the whole girl from
what
Columbia?
Do you know about that girl's
What did it have to do with you and why the app got deleted, though?
Because so Uber, she thought she was getting into an Uber driver's car. She thought she was getting into an Uber driver's car.
Yeah, but what does that have to do with you? That's what we're trying to figure out, JD, is the connection Uber, between that and you.
As a precautionary measure, Uber reran everybody's background and mine was eliminated. Trust me, I have no relation to any women going disappearing anywhere.
Is your real last name Cole?
All right, I was just calling to tell a story. Y'all have a good one.
This has gotten terrible.
He's like, I sound worse and worse the longer I stay on the show. I gotta go.
This has gotten. I mean, how did we get here? Oh God. I have no idea even where. Like, what do we do now? Just go to break.
Texter says new pitching coach for South Carolina is Phil McCracken. Nice. Texter says my side hustle is selling fine cigars. Come get some. I like smoking a fine cigar.
Where at, Texter? If you don't mind, we won't read it, but let us know
if they're that good. Maybe you should just do that as your main business.
Oh, that's intriguing. That is really interesting.
Texter says my side hustle is turning pens on a lathe. Pens, like writing pens. Like, what are you talking about?
What did he say? Pens on a
pens on a lathe. It's like where you turn a lathe and you make baseball bats on a lathe. You make all kind. What do you mean SR-71?
Huh? See, I'm not familiar with that. I'm really not.
Texter says, come on, Smokey. How do you get fired on your day off? Talking about Ipe Mizuhara being fired as an Uber driver while we think, I'm pretty sure that, he's got to still be in federal custody. And then we're also asking, what's your side hustle? Text us 71307. Start your text with keyword fan.
Rick wants to chime in on the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. What's up, Rick?
My side hustle is unusual.
Oh, God.
I'm an announcer for I don't know if I need to say it, but I'm going to do it. We have cockroach racing on Saturday night, and I'm the announcer for the cockroach race.
Please tell me you're being serious.
Can you give us an example here? I mean, I understand that you don't have actual cockroaches racing in front of you, but can you pretend for a moment and give us
stretch? Number one, number three. Number one, number three. They're neck to neck, back to back, or whatever. There you go.
Or whatever? Is that what's said?
Their nose to thorax, down the stretch they come.
They have it every Saturday night, and
I think I'm busy that night, Rick.
You can make a lot of money. I'm telling you.
You can make a lot of money doing what?
For calling the cockroach races.
Oh my God. Somebody takes hard-earned money and pays you $100 to call a cockroach race?
I'd rather watch an Ice Cube melting contest.
We have 12 cockroach races, and I call all 12 of them.
Can you tell us?
I'm telling you, they pay me $100. I love it. You
make $100 on this. How much money would you say is gambled on these things?
Oh, let me see.
Because the texter right here wants to know.
I've seen a $5,000 bet on one cockroach race.
No way.
Way.
God dang, Spartanburg County is a place.
Did he say? Don't throw us under the bus like
Rick
this.
from Spartanburg.
Rick. Is this in Spartanburg, Rick?
No, this is Greer, Rick, and we do it at Sugar Tip. So you can drink.
Of course.
No way. That's not a. Oh my God.
You can do what? Say that again.
It's called the Sugar Tip Cockroach Racing Circuit.
And you can do what?
You can drink liquor. We serve hot dogs. You can have liquor from the. It's close to the the Sugar Tip Brewery. I mean, you got it made. Betting on cockroaches. I mean, they have numbers on the back of them.
Oh my God! Can you ensure that no cockroaches are hurt in these races?
I've seen them get mad at each other, but they have their own separate lanes.
Well, I hope so.
And the lanes are about 50 feet long. It's just hard to get the cockroaches running sometimes.
Now, Rick, I'm telling you, you just opened up a can of worms here because we've got multiple people texting into the show right now wanting to know. Texter says, "Where do I gamble on cockroach racing?" Another texter says, "Asking for a friend. Where do they live stream this, and how do I gamble?" So it may be time, Rick, to
do y'all have Facebook Live?
To go a little more.
They do have Facebook Live, I think. I don't know. I just announced it. Okay, you asked for what I do to make my money, and I sell hot dogs. So I mean,
I would have probably led with that. You sold hot dogs.
Texter asked, "What the bleep is going on?"
There is actually. You need to show up, Diesel. I want you to. You can be the guest speaker.
I'm in. I am in. Dude, you don't understand how in I am.
I would go, but I'm busy that day.
Come on, Cole.
Rick,
is it because it's not a real sport?
We've got to take a break before we get fired. Rick.
Thank you.
Thanks for the call.
Rick is the star of the show today. God. Texter says Rick from Greer and JD both got DUIs at the same time.
Jeez. Texters, please, don't make this worse. Y'all are supposed to help.
Texters, this is the best segment of the show today.
Did Rick win the crown just now?
He did. Yeah, Rick is the man today. Sorry, the texter who said that South Carolina Gamecock Founders Park was going to be renamed for an assisted living facility. Rick just took it.
I know what I'm telling HR tomorrow.
This conversation never happened, by the way. We get in trouble.
God. All righty. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we've probably got to take a break. I would say it's highly suggested. Sports talk on the other side.
Why was there 18 seconds of dead air, silence to start the segment? Well, Cole and Diesel were called in the HR.
Still in shock.
God.
Still in shock. Texter says, please take that crown and hang it on Rick for the month of June.
That's a fact.
That comes from Alan B.
Alan B., I agree with you. That might happen. Sorry, everybody else, but Rick might have just took the crown from you. All right, we have to get to our daily wires. If we don't – sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt that production. If we don't do it now, we never will. All right, daily wires. Scotty Scheffler, Diesel, he just might be that dude. He is still winning, wins the Memorial Tournament this weekend in Dublin, Ohio, after being thrown in jail, after having a baby. I think we've all learned that nothing phases Scotty Scheffler. Wow.
Attaboy, Scotty.
That's a big
Scotty's
time.
on fire.
UNC Tar Heel Ryan Gerard won the 2024 BMW Charity Pro-Am. Minus 26 on the weekend.
Unbelievable.
That's pretty good golf, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Who was his I wonder who his celebrity was.
You know what? The article that I read, it didn't say.
Justice for the celebrities, right?
Yeah, man, that's pitiful.
Justice for the celebrities. I mean, I saw who was it? Reese? Wasn't Reese?
Reese was winning on Saturday.
He was matched up with Kevin from The Office, but I never saw Brian's name mentioned with him.
You know, Kevin told us that he was leading. What was that like on Thursday?
Yeah, on Thursday, his team was leading.
Wonder what happened. Man, that's I don't know. We'll have to figure out what celebrity was paired with Ryan.
Everybody
Gerard.
I know was at this thing over the weekend.
Yeah,
a lot of people.
Like 3 people.
Yeah.
Oh. All right,
Kyle
Larson Diesel yesterday won the Toyota Save Mart 500. Don't like that name, by the way. It's kind of just no, not a fan.
Doesn't inspire any.
No.
Like, it's kind of like team names. You know, wouldn't you want the team name to be a little bit reminiscent of where they are? Like, there are no lakes in Los Angeles. There's no jazz in Utah.
You know, that it's super interesting because I did like the one last week. Enjoy Illinois. I like that one.
Yeah, that helps. I mean, why couldn't it be why isn't it the Toyota Sonoma 500? That tells you where the race is. Otherwise, I have no idea where the Toyota Save Mart 500 is if nobody tells me. If we hadn't talked to Shane Connick, I could have said the Toyota Save Mart 500 could have been anywhere in the country.
It's a good point. Yesterday, Dallas fell to Boston. The series is now 2-0. Wow. Why do we sound depressed? Well, I was pulling for Dallas. Last night's final score, 105-98. Yesterday, also not a good day for the Tigers. The Clemson's baseball season came to an end at the hands of the Florida Gators on Sunday night. Final score in 13 innings, 11-10.
A truly epic baseball game.
You heard Will Vandervort with the Clemson Insider. He said, and we'll have that interview for you again later on in the program, but he said, Diesel, look, that was the craziest game I've ever covered.
Yeah, it had everything. And he was right about the instant replays. I mean, instant replays take way too long, and they get it wrong a lot. There was that one instant replay where it was the Florida back picked towards first base and got the Clemson runner. They were right about that. Why did it take so long?
Oh, it took forever.
It takes forever. I mean, do you think they have some sort of a clock where they say, all right, if we're going to enter into a review, an official review, we are required to watch this clip for a total of 30 seconds. We cannot just take one look at it and say, okay, that's it. It's obvious. They have to do this long, slow thing.
I envision it being like when you're trying to call someone and you have like something really important to talk about, and it just keeps ringing. Maybe like when the umpires go get the headsets, they hit the call button to New York or wherever they're calling, and it just keeps ringing. You know, like they're like, hey man, maybe somebody will pick up like Jerry's up there and wakes up. Jerry has to get his headset on, and boy, 30 minutes later he reviews the first base rule. I mean, I don't know. That's just how I envision it, right? Yesterday, the Braves. I don't even want to read this one. The Braves made it official yesterday. They got swept by the Nationals.
Swept.
Pitiful, pitiful, pitiful. They are now 35-28 on the season. 9. Not 1, Diesel. Not 2.
not 3, but 9 games back in the NL East. The good news, Braves fans, the good news is they don't play today.
You can't lose. You can't lose. Hey, coming up tomorrow, we're going to bring on Jake Mastriani of Locked On Braves to talk about it. We were going to have Jake on today, which is our normal every other Monday Braves hit from Jake Mastriani. He's going to join us tomorrow. That way we had time to bring in Will Vandervort earlier.
Also, he told us, look, the Braves suck. I don't really want to come on right now. I'm kidding. He didn't say that. Dan Hurley made a decision today on his future. He will not go to L.A. He must have turned down some money.
He will not be LeBron's assistant coach.
No, he will not be. He will be back in Connecticut in college basketball. A big win for college basketball today. Caitlin Clark snubbed. That's right. I said snubbed. She was left off of Team USA. And also the final Daily Wire, Diesel, NC State, Georgia tonight. I am stoked. This one should be fantastic.
So do you like JJ Redick as the next head coach? I mean, everybody thought he was the shoe-in for the job.
I'd hire him.
And maybe that was the plan all along, was we're really, really, really excited about JJ, but if we can get Hurley, we got to get him, right?
No, I'd hire him. I really would. I have no problem with it.
When we come back, Cole, we're going to get deeper into that game 2.
Okay.
That now leads Boston now leads that series 2-0. Try to figure out why it happened. And if you're an old school fan of basketball, I'm going to give you something very hopeful that you might not have paid attention to in that game that should make you feel very good about NBA going forward. That's coming up next here on the Fan Upstate.
Trying to fix my
Celtics 105, Mavs 98. Is this series done? I think it's pretty close to being done. I think there's a real good chance, Cole, that the Mavs are cooked. They get swept in these NBA finals. Game 3 is Wednesday, so we're not going to have to wait too terribly long to figure out just how deep of a hole the Dallas Mavericks are going to find themselves in. But it's very simple to figure out what's going on in this series. Boston just has way too much firepower, and Dallas is playing a two-man game. Well, technically, they're playing a one-man game because Kyrie Irving ain't showing up.
No.
I can't figure out what's going on with Kyrie. He is a 25-point-per-game average scorer, and he's only scored a total of 28 points in this entire series. Scored 12 in game 1, scored 16 in game 2. Look, game 1 was pretty much out of reach for the Mavs. But if Kyrie scores his average, Cole, they win the game last night.
Yeah, so Kyrie Irving has not been relevant.
He's not been
series.
Good.
I will say that to answer the question, is the series over? In terms of big picture, I do think it's over. I think the Boston Celtics are the better team. Now, I do not think that they will get swept. I think Dallas is too good not to win a game. I think they'll win 1, maybe 2. The reality of it is all it takes, and again, I know this is easier said than done, but all it will take is Kyrie Irving at home on Wednesday, getting into a groove, figuring things out, him and Luka getting hot just like they were during the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, and I think Dallas is right back in it.
He is now 1-12 since he stomped on Lucky.
Yep.
1-12 against the Celtics and stomping on Lucky.
So Kyrie Irving will have to figure out how to, number one, be a threat from behind the three-point line, because that's something that he has not been in this final series. Mm-hmm. Also, he's getting to the rim, but he's just been like just kind of nonchalant. I don't know that the series is necessarily over. Like, I'll say this. Boston did their job and won the first 2. If Dallas does their job and defends home court, if you tell me that Dallas wins game 3, which, by the way, I was wrong because I told you on Friday that Dallas would win game 2. If you tell me that Dallas wins game 3 on Wednesday, I do believe there's a good chance that him and Luka can get some energy and create some consistency, because there has been no consistency between him and Luka. So it's a long shot. Yeah. I just don't see it happening.
Well, I pointed out in game 1 that all 5 of Boston's starters scored double digits, and Kristaps Porzingis off the bench scored 20 in that game. In last night's game, all but one of Boston's starters scored in double figures, as did Kristaps Porzingis off the bench. Al Horford, the only one who didn't. But when you look at the box score, I mean, it wasn't a bad performance from Dallas. They scored 98 points. All 5 of their starters scored double-digit points. You would think that would be a fairly good effort. But again, when you're playing the type of team that Boston is, you got to come at it with more than one guy. What did Luka score last night? 30-something?
Yeah,
32
he's good for
points?
that every game.
Triple-double last night, 32, 11, and 11. He was the highest scorer
and he was hurt
for Dallas. Drew Holiday scored 26 points and 11 rebounds for Boston. And what I'm finding really interesting about this, Cole, I don't know if this is psychological warfare that's going on. I don't know where exactly this is coming from, but people are trying to drive a Drew Holiday shaped wedge between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in these NBA finals. Why? I'm not really sure. But in this audio here, Drew Holiday addresses this misconception that he has some sort of preference for one of those two guys.
I feel like people kind of took that out of context, and I've been hearing that I prefer JB over JT, and that's not what that was. I like to praise my teammates. I like to praise my teammates when they're playing well, and I feel like that's what I did my best to do. When I got here, JT was the first person to text me. I already know that and both of them know how I feel about them, how I feel about them as players. But to compare them is something that I would never do because they're two completely different players, as well as being on the same team and the things that they've done in this organization and the things that they've done against me as an opponent. I feel like how they play together and how they work together is something that is sacred.
One thing I will say,
what are people trying to do?
Well, I think at this point they're just reaching a little bit,
kicking up drama.
Yeah, they're trying to. I'm not buying it. I don't see any drama there. And look, the bottom line is the team that's losing is the one that's trying to do it. I'll say this. One other thought on Dallas. One more thought, rather. Derek Lively, for as good as he's been this season, for as good as he was in the postseason, it may seem as if the lights are too bright for him, being a rookie, being a guy who doesn't have any experience in an NBA Finals. He just hasn't had it. They have had 0 lob threats. They've had 0 attacks at the rim with Lively, and he was a big part of them getting to the NBA Finals, not only offensively but defensively, and he just hadn't been there. 2 points last night, not going to get it done. Maxi Kleber had 0 last night. He was awful last night in the 16 minutes that he played. So when you have Lively and Kleber on the floor together and they account for 2 points, you're not gonna win games. Dallas's bench, we said it on like last Wednesday. Boston's a deeper team. Dallas doesn't have a bench. They beat a really good Minnesota team who beat Denver, but when you look at the bench for Boston, man, there's just too much firepower.
Yeah, Dallas at this point is Count Adamar from the movie A Knight's Tale. How would you beat him? With a stick while he sleeps, but on a horse with a lance? That guy's unbeatable. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to drive this wedge in this team right now, and it's not going to work. Cole, it sure as hell hurts when your star is not playing like a star and you're giving up a lot of turnovers and they're scoring a lot of points off of those turnovers. Dallas turned the ball over 15 times last night. Boston scored 21 points off those turnovers. But I'm going to tell you, Cole, I think what we're seeing right now with the Boston Celtics, and this is what I got to in the tease in the last segment. If you are a fan of unselfish team basketball, watch these Boston Celtics right now. That is who they are, Cole. They are building something in the mold of old school basketball, unselfish old school basketball. And it's virtually unbeatable when everybody on the team can pass the ball, can dish it and get assists, and then everybody's scoring double digits on your team. You can't beat that. You can't, because they're playing at such a high level right now and playing such unselfish basketball. It's fantastic to watch.
Texter says, yes, Kyrie has been non-existent. Can't disagree there, but think he shows up in Dallas. I don't know if they even it up, but Kyrie balls next game. Texter says Boston played a terrible game and still won, which I agree with, Texter. Another one from the 203. Tatum certainly does not care. Listen, the bottom line is, as much as we talk about Lively and all the other storylines with the finals, the bottom line here is Kyrie Irving is getting paid $38 million a year. $38 million, excuse me, to be the guy. And when he got to Dallas, there were a lot of question marks. Last year, Dallas was not good.
He's got that Kyrie. He's got that. He's got that Kyler Murray money.
This year, obviously, with the addition of Lively, this Dallas team was a different team. And you know what? They listen. This has not been a bust. Kyrie has been a huge addition to getting Dallas to the postseason and to the NBA Finals, because the reality of it is, Dallas isn't playing in the finals without Kyrie Irving. However, I say this all the time in football, especially with my NFL team. When the lights are brightest, Diesel, your stars, the one that you're paying the big bucks to, and maybe this is just a Dallas problem because it happens in Arlington as well, but the guys that you're paying the big money to, when the lights are the brightest, they better show up. And the bottom line is Kyrie Irving, when the lights have been bright this final series, he has not shown up. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's mental. I don't know if Boston just has his number, if it's a matchup issue. It may be all of the above. but he's got to show up in order for them to have a chance because Luka can't do it on his own. Derek Lively, Maxi Kleba, those guys are just, non-existent as well. When you're paying a guy $38 million, there's just no excuses, man. Like I give the Dallas Cowboys a lot of heck during my dreaded football seasons because in the playoffs, it's a common theme every year for Dallas. The stars, when the lights are brightest, the stars don't show up. The ones who are making the salary cap an issue, the ones that are getting paid the big bucks, when those lights, bright lights turn on, they just check out. And again, I hate to be that way on Kyrie because I do like Kyrie, but man, you're making $38 million a year. You got to show up, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot of thought process in common with Kendrick Perkins. I think a lot of his analysis and his takes are far too simplistic that don't really tell you anything anyway. But he's dead right. Last night, 20 hours ago, he tweeted Kyrie hasn't made it to the finals yet. He's not there. He's not showing up. Luka is a bad MF. Guess what, Kendrick? We already knew that. The stage might be too big for the rookie Lively. He's a rookie. What do you expect, Kendrick? I mean, whatever, man. But you're right. You're right about Kyrie not making it to these finals.
I just think that, like, when you look at Boston, I'm not taking anything away from Jason Tatum because, look, he's a great player. He's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. But, like, they have Robins. Like, they have guys that can go and be consistent and help Batman out. And yeah, Kyrie is Luka's Robin when he wants to be, but it's not consistent. And you know what? You're not going to win games that way. Boston's just, look, they're deeper and they're more talented. Like, you've got to be more talented 1 to 5. Dallas may have the best player in Luka Doncic, but guess what? You've got to be better 1 to 5, and Boston's better 1 to 8 right now.
Yeah, this reminds me, Cole, of more 90s basketball when you had a whole team and every player on that team had a role and they knew what to do. Everybody could score. This reminds
like the Warriors.
This reminds me of the Warriors. This reminds me of the 90s Bulls, teams that were deep across the bench and could beat you no matter who was on the court. This is not LeBron era. Let's get 2 players and a bag of potato chips out there and everybody get out of these 2 guys' way. And it feels like at this point, the Dallas is stuck in that 2-man era. They got a great 2-man. Well, they got 1.5 men right now, but at their best, they've got a 2-man rotation.
Yeah, they do. And at their best, they have to have their role players step up, and they haven't this finals. Listen, one note. You ask if the series is over. I think ultimately Boston wins. However, it is very important to remember that in 2021, Boston had a 2-1 lead over who? The Golden State Warriors. They had the Warriors right where they wanted them in 2021. And Boston goes up 2-1 after it was tied 1-1. And you think, man, Boston 2-1 lead. All they got to do is win 2 more, and they beat the Warriors. Well, guess what? They squandered away a 2-1 lead in 2021 to lose to the Golden State Warriors. So I'm not saying like I'm expecting Boston to choke again. I'm just saying it has happened before. But Texter, listen, from the 203, I agree with you. Kristaps is the game changer. He's the one that is really allowing this team to play as freely as they are.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson, and here in the here in the Ingles Market Studios. You want to call in and talk NBA Finals? Now's your chance to do it. We got about 3 minutes left on this topic. 844-FAN-PHONE, 844-326-3663. Text us at 71307. Start your text with keyword fan, or jump in the comment section on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. You Tolos can chop it up, not just with us, but with other Tolos as well. It's a community over there.
Texter from the 803 says Kyrie is an animated series Robin. Only shows up in certain series. Kyrie needs to be 60s Robin, where he shows up in every episode. That's a good take, Texter.
Cole, you remember how dark the Dark Knight series was?
Yeah.
I saw a YouTube video once, and you guys might have seen this before. It's the Dark Knight Batman teamed up with 60s Robin. And Bane starts beating up on Robin, and it's so uncomfortable to watch. This Robin who's just swinging from pipes and saying kablowie and silly things like that just get his ass beat by modern Dark Knight Bane and just getting punched again and again.
Yeah.
And again and again and again and again
And
and
again.
again and again. And that's what's happening in this series is Batman needs a dog, you know?
And
He needs a
Boston,
real Robin.
the bad thing is, like, if you were going to get Boston, like last night should have been the night. I know Luka was hurt, and you know he was. It was very evident, like you could see that he was hurting, but they didn't play the best last night. To put a bow on it,
I
I'll
appreciate
say
the fact that he was out there playing and he still dropped 32 even though he was hurt.
Yeah.
That's shades of the MJ flu game.
yeah, he well,
You got to win.
pizza upset
Gotta
summit
win.
pizza game,
Yeah.
made up flu, coward. Anyways, don't get me on that rabbit hole. Listen, to put a bow on it, I think Boston wins now in 6. I do. I do think they win in 6. I'm not sold on the sweep. Dallas is too good, in my opinion. Listen, I could be dead wrong, but Dallas, in my opinion, is too good to let them go over there and just get swept. I just don't see it. At home, they're going to play good. Kyrie, at some point, has to show up. And look, the bottom line is if he does show up and wins a game and they come back home for game 4, Dallas is right back in this series.
So you're saying at this point, what you've seen, you're calling Boston in 6.
Yeah, I think
I'm calling Boston in 5.
Well, it might be.
I think Dallas gets one in Dallas, and it better be Wednesday night. If they don't get a win Wednesday night, this is a sweep. This is over.
I don't love their chances. I mean, I love to sit here and say, yeah, Boston or excuse me, Dallas can do it. But man, at the end of the day, they've got to have more than one guy show up. All right, speaking of one guy showing up, 3 guys, 4 guys, 5 umpires showed up and showed out last night in Clemson. We'll talk to Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider next.
A lot of thoughts and reaction coming in on our text line about some news that South Carolina may be targeting Paul Mainieri, the former LSU coach, which is quite fascinating. I do not know what the initial reaction will be, but I can tell you I do not think it'll be very elated. I could be wrong. This one, in my opinion, just seems like it may be out of left field a little bit. However, at 420 is usually when we have our guest on, and we will continue that today as we bring in Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. Will, we appreciate you coming on, first of all, man. But, you know, it's like I said last night on a video I posted on our social medias, the sad part about what happened yesterday is the game itself will not be talked about as much. Now that you've had, 12 hours or so to sleep on this, chew on it a little bit, what's Will Vandervort's reaction to what you saw yesterday in Clemson?
Well, it was probably the craziest game I've ever covered, to be honest with you, from the 18-minute delay after the altercation between Jack Caleon and Clemson's Nolan Naraki, and then it turns out the guy who really didn't do anything in the whole thing was the guy tossed at Jack Brighton of Clemson. That was nuts to me that happened to begin with. And then just at that time, I get it. The umpires warned both teams and you continue to play the game. And then the game I thought was played at a high level from both teams when you had big home runs made. You had some great plays in the field made. All the things that you love to see this time of year, right, with postseason college baseball. And so you're like, okay, this is great, other than the delay they had for a little while. And then there was some chirping going on between both teams as the game continued. I remember one situation where the catcher, I'm trying to say how you say his last name, Brody Donne, I believe that's how you say it. He hit a home run, and as he's rounding second base, he's clearly chirping at Cam Canarella, the Clemson center fielder. Nothing's done, though. You let it play out, which is fine because emotions are high, and these are elite athletes playing, and they're it happens, and you just let it be. And then later on, I think, Ashton Wilson hits a home run that gives Florida a 9-6 lead in the bottom of the 8th. He flips his bat toward the Clemson dugout, and nothing happens, so you're fine with it. And then Clemson ends up getting the big home run from Cam. They celebrated, but, there was no flipping of the bat or anything like that from Cam. It was just a regular celebration. But you go to the, I guess what inning was that, the 13th. And, Clemson leadoff guy, Alden Mathis, Alden hits the bomb to right field that lands off the top of the cages. And supposedly, he did. He spiked his bat or slammed it into the ground toward the Clemson dugout, celebrating with his teammates. That's just as we saw Florida had done earlier in the game, right? And all of a sudden, the officials have a problem with that, and they stop play again. And it leads to Jack Leggett, who just lost it because he saw all the other things going on during the course of the game, and I think he lost control because he's like, "Why are you stopping play on this matter, but you didn't the previous others? I don't understand. Kind of explain this to us." And that's what Jack was yelling about when he came out of the dugout, and was saying some other choice words that I won't be able to say. And then that's what Eric Bakich's complaint was too, that the officials stopped the momentum of the game for Clemson after getting a big momentum home run hit to take the lead. The officials kind of stopped it and kind of took the momentum away from the crowd and Clemson. And that's what the Clemson people got upset about. And it was nuts, man. You were there. You saw everything that happened. And then, of course, Florida, give them credit. They come back in the bottom of the 13th inning, and they get 2 runs to score to win the game, get a walk-off to celebrate going to Omaha. And the sad thing about it, man, is nobody's talking about Florida's run, because the officials, in my opinion, the umpires, they stole the show. and they took it away from Florida, which I thought it's a great story that Florida's in Omaha, considering they were the last team to get into the field of 64. Everybody was upset that they got in over College of Charleston. As we all know, it's been well documented. Yes, they make it to Omaha by going to Clemson and winning, first going to Oklahoma State and winning 4 games out there, coming through the losers bracket, and then, beating Clemson 2 games in the Super Regional. Unfortunately, all anybody wants to talk about was how the officials lost control of the game there at the end, because I just thought they didn't handle things consistently throughout. And I'm not blaming Florida at all. I think Florida was the better team, and the better team won the series, in my opinion. I just think it was poorly handled by the umpires in this game, and it's really sad because all everybody's talking about today is those umpires and not what Florida did.
Will Vandervort, the Clemson insider, joins us here on Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson. Will, it's Diesel here. Do you want to see Clemson's schedule tougher in the out-of-conference to give fans these kinds of environments more often? Sold-out crowd. You can't argue with just how nuts that place was, especially in the late innings. I felt like it had a bit of a Disney Channel vibe early in the game, but man, it got chippy and it got real late in that game. I mean, you look at the out-of-conference and who Clemson really plays every year. You played Georgia once this year, once last year. You played the 3-game series against South Carolina every year. But would you want to see Clemson scheduling Florida and Tennessee and teams like that more often so that they can have environments like this? I mean, it's way better than the environment you're going to have than hosting USC Upstate. No disrespect to them. But shouldn't we see this more often?
Well, first of all, Clemson and Georgia generally play a 3-game series every year. That is just the last couple of years because of conference scheduling. They've had to just do it this way to try to get 1 game in. So Georgia, they've either played a home and home or they've played a 3-game series during the course of the season. So Clemson and Georgia have always been, they've played for the most part almost every year. And then, I mean, when you look at Clemson's non-conference schedule, it was like one of the toughest non-conference schedules in the country this year. So I don't know if you want to play any harder than what they've already done, because you still got to play in the ACC. And the ACC is no slouch either. If NC State wins today, you're going to have 4 ACC teams and 4 SEC teams in the College World Series, and that's what it's been like all year. Those 2 conferences have dominated. So, I think Clemson's fine with their non-conference schedule. Next year, they did up it a little bit because they're going out to Texas and playing in that opening series out there in Arlington. They'll play, I believe, 3 or 4 games over there. So that came out a couple weeks ago before the season ended. That's how they're opening the season. Of course, they're going to go open it without Eric Bakich or Jack Crichton playing. Because Crichton's going to be suspended for 1 game and Eric Bakich will be suspended for 2 games for that. So, so they won't be able to go out there. They won't be full deck for those first couple games. No, I'm fine with what Clemson's baseball schedule is. Clemson generally always plays a tough non-conference baseball schedule. And they're going to play the USC Upstate. But let's remember, USC Upstate's a pretty darn good baseball team. They beat Clemson and South Carolina on a regular basis. It's not like and Coastal Carolina. I mean, it's not like they're chopped liver or anything. So they sometimes have a high RPI when they play Clemson and things of that nature. Now, and so I think for the most part, Clemson's non-conference schedule's fine because you got to weigh in. You're going to play a very difficult conference schedule too. And remember, going into non-conference schedule, Clemson was number 2 in the RPI. I mean, going into the conference season, Clemson was number 2 in the RPI because they played a very difficult non-conference schedule. I think they played Kansas State this year, who went on to the Super Regionals. That was a game Clemson hosted earlier this year as well. So, yeah, I think they're fine with what they got.
Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. You can follow him on Twitter at SteelerWill. Will, the only critique that I had of Clemson in the first segment of the show today was their pitching. I'm not saying you have to go out there and shut out the best lineups in the nation, but I want to hear your thoughts on what seemed to be like a team that had to chase a lot down the stretch. It didn't really seem like Clemson was the one getting chased yesterday. And in the first game with Florida, it seemed like Clemson was the one that was doing the chasing, in my opinion, because of the arms and just how dangerous Florida's lineup was.
Well, Clemson's been chasing all year. I mean, that's why they've rallied 25 times to win this season. I mean, that's been this team, and that's, you know, we knew that going into the season that their pitching wasn't to that level that it needs to be, maybe to win a national championship or something like that, but their hitting was. And so that was what's going to carry the team, and that did all year long. I can only remember one game where Clemson didn't really hit the ball very well, you know, all season, and that was early in the season. And that was more because they just didn't play well that day in an early season loss. But other than that, I think, you know, it's very rarely you saw Clemson not produce runs and get a lot of hits in a game. And like I said, they came back 25 times this season. The pitching is the issue, or was the issue all season long. You know, besides Aiden Canuck, they didn't get very much out of their other two weekend starters as far as going long ways into the game, getting into the 6th or 7th inning like you need. Canuck was the only one who was consistently able to do that. And yesterday, he just didn't have his best game yesterday, and that happens. You're not going to be on every week. You know, you're gonna have those moments, but he's first team All ACC player for a reason. He's going to be fine. He went 5-1 this season as a true freshman, starting on the weekend rotation. There's not many guys that have done that, and to let people understand how rare that is, that he's a first team All ACC pitcher. Clemson has not had a first team All ACC pitcher as a true freshman since 1997. So that puts a little perspective on how rare that is, or how good he is. And so, you know, what you got to do is you hope Tristan Smith can, you know, get healthier and start showing some consistency, which I thought he pitched okay for the most part in game one. It's just that one inning it got away from him. But you hope he gets better. And then you got to find a third guy. And that's where Clemson has really struggled, is finding that third piece where they can have three solid starters on the weekend. Because what they've done is they taxed their bullpen. And, you know, nobody wants to tax their bullpen. And Clemson had to start taxing their bullpen in the 5th inning in game one. And then Canuck didn't really have it, and they had to bring in somebody by the 5th inning in game two. So that's where the problems lied all weekend, and that's where it's lied all season for them, is they just haven't got the starting pitching that they needed.
Well, there's a handful of guys on this roster who are seniors and graduates, Hinderleiter, Obertop, Mathis, guys like them, that could very well possibly be on the move for draft graduation. You would hope that this would be an easy answer, but, you know, we saw with UConn and men's basketball, after they won a national title, their first one, they had to replace most of their roster. How much of this team that you get a sense will Eric Bakich be able to hold on to going into next year?
Hold on to is a great word, because in this day and age of transfer portal, and yes, tampering does happen, it's hard to hold on to players. You know, as you can imagine, Cam Canarella is going to be probably the most sought after guy in the country. If people didn't know who he was, which is foolish if you didn't, but if they didn't know who he was, they do now after the way he played yesterday. So, you know, that's going to be the key, is to try to bring back the nucleus of this team. Like you mentioned, they're going to lose guys like Jacob Hinderleiter. They're going to lose a guy like Alden Mathis, Blake Wright. Those are guys, Jimmy Obertop. Those are guys that are just gone because they've used all their eligibility. So, you know, and then you got a couple other guys like an Austin Gordon who's can come back next year, but he's probably going to be drafted high, maybe in the first 10 rounds. And what does he do? You know, if it's me, if I'm him, I'd probably go pro if that happens, because there's a lot of money there, right? And, you know, so there's some questions that, you know, they're going to have to answer here in the next couple of weeks, and they're going to lose some people. What you hope is that guys like Cam Canarello and Jaron Purify, that those guys come back, and Aiden Canuck, you hope those guys are coming back, because they were all big freshmen. When you look at how Eric Bakich has recruited and the freshmen he's brought in, Cam Canarello was his guy. He was a true freshman All-American last year, first team All-ACC, the year before. And then, this year he gets Aiden Canuck, who's going to be a freshman All-American and first team All-ACC. And you got a Jaron Purify, who's got potential to be a superstar, I think, in his own right. Those are guys Bakich has brought in as true freshmen, and look how good they are and how they, went over and, how they have progressed throughout the season and gotten better. And their freshman season with Canarello to sophomore season now this year to now those other guys who were true freshmen and what they did. And you look at a guy like, Jacob McGovern, the pitcher who came in and shut Florida down after that fifth inning in game one, he's another guy, true freshman this year that they developed really well. So I think, Eric recruits well. And so we'll see what he can do there. And then also what pieces does he bring in the transfer portal? He went to the transfer portal last year and got some pretty good guys like Jacob Hindeleiter, like Andrew Shufo, who got injured towards ACL early in the year, but he was having a good year before he tore his ACL. So he's brought in some good guys from the portal as well. So how well does he do? And you got to imagine after what happened in the bottom of the 13th or the top of the 13th yesterday, there's going to be a lot of people that want to play for Eric Bakich, that's for sure.
Will Vandervort of the Clemson Insider. Will, my last question for you. It seemed as if South Carolina Gamecock fans came out of hibernation last night around, 7:15 or so. Is there any argument in your mind who really is the premier baseball program in this state at this very moment?
I don't know if I can answer that. It depends on who you're asking. If you're asking a guy that's wearing a Clemson T-shirt, he's going to say Clemson. If you're asking a guy who's wearing a Gamecock T-shirt, he's going to say Carolina. I think right now you give Clemson the edge because Clemson has bragging rights. Right? They beat them They beat them this year. They swept them, and so by that you go ahead and say Clemson right now is the program. And Clemson's got a program that's was just 2 games from Omaha this year, where South Carolina now is replacing the head coach and starting over. So you say Clemson's ahead. I wouldn't say Clemson is a superior program by any stretch, because I think South Carolina has the pieces in place. Well, whoever they bring in to be their head coach is going to be able to be successful and probably, like Clemson, be able to do it fast, like Bakich has done here at Clemson. So they're both elite baseball programs. They have been for decades, and that's going to continue to be the case. It's the best college baseball rivalry in the country. It's no argument. And, I look forward to see how it's going to be in the future. These two play baseball at a high level as good as anybody, and they both got the numbers to back it up with a number of College World Series appearances. South Carolina's won 2 national championships, and they can brag. Both teams can. Clemson's been the premier team in the ACC for decades, since the conference started in baseball, and that's still the case. And as far as number of championships and things of that nature, and South Carolina has dominated baseball for a long time and has been one of the top teams in the country for a long time. So I'm not going to get an argument who's better. I just say right now, you say Clemson owns the bragging rights, and that's where it stands.
Well, I don't think any of us want to see, college baseball, the balls be deadened or the bats be deadened. As much as it raises people's blood pressure, a lot of home runs is really exciting. It makes college baseball an awful lot of fun. But, one thing that I think we might be seeing eventually, we're seeing it coming towards Major League Baseball. We're seeing it in minor league baseball. Robo umpires, I'm thinking back to the really 2 bad called strikes against Ty Olenchuk, and I think that was in the 8th or the 9th inning. I mean, these are 2 pitches that he thought both were ball 4, and he was dropping his bat, trotting off to first base. Both of them called strikes. Are you in favor of bringing robo umps to college baseball?
I'm not, and let's also not forget that the Florida player was awarded a base after a foul ball hit off his leg. I believe that was it, right? So, you had that happen too. I'm not, because I'll tell you guys, I'm not in favor of instant replay. I hate it personally, because it seems like instant replay,
it's far from instant, 40%, right?
40%, well, that, and 40% of the time they get it wrong. It may be lower than that, but it seems like it's 40% of the time. So I'm like, if you're going to be horrible at it, why have it? Right? And so I feel this way too. It's like, we don't need to bring the human element of the game. What happened last night is what makes it fun. It's what makes sports fun. If we take that away, it's not as fun. You take that element out, and then, what happens if there's a glitch in the computer? Because it can happen. Computers definitely aren't. Who runs computers, guys? As I always tell everybody, there's got to be somebody that's got to plug it into the wall. It's got to have power. And so there's always a chance things can mess up. Humans are going to mess things up at some point anyway. why not just keep it the way it is and just let that element play its role? So I've always felt that way. And like I said, if they could get rid of instant replay in the NFL and in college football, I would be probably the happiest person in the world.
Well, guess what? You got the experience now, right? You've got plenty of experience now as Kendall Rogers from D1 Baseball is reporting that the South Carolina Gamecocks have all intentions of hiring former LSU coach Paul Mainieri. Okay? Paul Mainieri is going to be the new baseball coach at South Carolina. That is the way it looks as of right now. Here are a couple of side notes that are very interesting about this hire that is expected to happen tomorrow. By the way, they're having a board of trustees meeting at 4 o'clock. So it should be sometime around maybe 5:30, 6 o'clock when an announcement is made. If it leaks earlier, obviously we'll have it for you on this note about South Carolina's new baseball coach. So a couple of side notes from Kendall Rogers of D1 Baseball. Kendall says all intentions from the South Carolina side of things is that they would like to keep top assistant Monty Lee in the fold as an assistant in Columbia. It will take some work from the Gamecocks, but their preferred route would be for Monty to stay. Kendall Rogers also goes on to say, in addition to Monty Lee, all indications are that Terry Rooney will head from LSU to South Carolina as his pitching coach. LSU is not a done deal to stay yet, but the expectation is that South Carolina will likely make it work. So the new staff for the South Carolina baseball team looks to be former LSU coach Paul Mainieri, Monty Lee, and pitching coach Terry Rooney. Wow. South Carolina fans, I have not seen any positivity yet. Okay? I don't know why I haven't seen any positivity, but I haven't. And by the way, Diesel had a run. He had to leave a little early, so that's why you don't hear Diesel right now. But look, I don't want to hear a complaint. Texter says, shut up, Cole. I'm the biggest and best Gamecock you know, and I'm barfing. Well, Texter, you didn't want the up-and-coming coach that had no experience. Well, you got experience aplenty now, man. Pile it up with the fries and the onion rings all the way to the ceiling because you have plenty of experience as your baseball coach is now 2 or 3 years away from 70. I don't know if this is an experiment. I don't know if this has been a lifelong dream of Ray Tanner. This was out of left field, no pun intended. But I will tell you that this guy, who, by the way, has an incredible pedigree, don't act like this is a terrible coach. I'm talking about Paul Mainieri. He's won a national championship. He's been to the World Series with 2 different teams. He's only one of 13 coaches to do that in the history of D1 baseball. He has an incredible pedigree. However, this name was not a name we saw on any short list. We saw Godwin. We saw Pollard. Obviously, we talked about the potential of Landon Powell. That didn't happen. I know that Landon Powell wanted the job. He did talk to Ray Tanner from a source close to me that told me they did have a conversation. But it looks as if Ray Tanner is now saying, look, you guys wanted experience. Well, I got one of the most experienced. Paul Mainieri. Not the name we expected. He guided LSU to the 2009 national championship. He's tallied more than 1,500 wins in his career. By the way, quick shout out to Teddy Cahill, National Writer of Baseball America, for breaking this news. But look, we'll get more into this tomorrow because I know that there's a lot of reaction. We've had a lot of text and messages on the stream already today from South Carolina Gamecock fans on the hire. Most have been negative. Most Gamecock fans are not excited about the hire. But look, you wanted experience. You made it very clear that you wanted experience, and that's what you got. So I don't know why you're upset. I don't know why you're upset. I have no idea. Gamecock fans, Paul Mainieri looks to be your next baseball coach. Is this going to be the Steve Spurrier experiment? And when I say experiment, don't hear me say that Steve Spurrier didn't work. He was only the best football coach that South Carolina football has ever had. It worked out really well. But is this the Lou Holtz experiment? I mean, this is fascinating. A lot of times you think that programs want to go young. You want to go get somebody up and coming. You want to go get somebody that's going to be at your program for a while. Unless Paul Mainieri coaches until he's 74, 75, which I'm not saying he won't. But this is not a long-term hire by any stretch of the imagination. I think he's 66, 67 right now. Somewhere right in there. He's a few years away from 70. He doesn't look young by any means. So it's very interesting. Look, South Carolina, they're a program that expects to win in baseball. They should. Ray Tanner took them to the absolute mountaintop, and they deserve better than Mark Kingston. I didn't see this coming, though. I did not see Paul Maneri being named the new baseball coach. That's for sure. I did not see this coming. South Carolina Gamecock fans, let us know how you feel. You can text the show today and tomorrow anytime, 71307. Start your text with the word fan. Also, we're live every single day on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, in addition to 97.1 Spartanburg and 97.7 Greenville and anywhere in the world on the Odyssey app. I do want to let you know we're going to have on a Atlanta Braves guest tomorrow. To talk about the Atlanta Braves, I did say earlier they got swept, but that was my fault. Madcraft corrected me. They did win Thursday. They beat Washington in Game 1 on Thursday, so they won 1, lost 3. They went 1-3 against Washington in the 4-game series over the weekend. We'll try tomorrow. We'll try our absolute best to see if the Braves fans out there have any hope left. I don't think they do. Jake Mastriani from Locked On Braves will join us, though. He's an incredible Braves guest, and he'll join us at 4:20. So if you hadn't heard Jake, tune in tomorrow if you're a Braves fan and want some renewed hope. He'll try to provide it for you. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter. I am at the Cole Bryson. That's TheColeBryson. Give me a follow on Twitter. I will follow you back as well. I'll see you tomorrow.